Welcome to the Racist of the Month compilation. My name is Reese Waters. Now, typically, this is where we expose the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union. And also laugh. Always laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the page, and definitely leave me any possible suggestions for nominees in the comments, or you can email me at reese@reesewaters.com. It has been a wild month. The racism even brought me back to my roots. Sports. I know, racism and sports. Who knew? We even got a new intro and outro for our brand new segment, Who Raised Y'all? And once again, we could thank Ann Coulter for that. Although Laura Loomer she's really making that franchise her own. So pay attention and let me know who you pick as Racist of the Month in the comments. I'll also put up a poll in the community tab, which is as secure an election as we have, according to Fox News. All right, let's get this thing started. Here I was minding my own business.
And I'm here to do my black job.
That's right, minding my own black business. And then I see this headline. Now, we've seen black conservatives before.
Kamala Harris, may I say this, and hopefully that you ladies won't get offended, but because of what happened in the Garden of Eden, there will never be an elected woman, whether she's black or white, that will occupy the White House that God would ever stand behind.
And we're here to say that Black lives, Black lives, Black lives. Thank you very much, family.
But this one would be a little bit different.
He's not known as a reactionary type person, and I would venture to say that the lawsuit has merit.
Claiming he was called a slave by a far-right group. Now his lawsuit is making national headlines. A Lee County man says he was out campaigning for former President Trump when the term was thrown at him. He says he was also bribed to get dirt on a local leader.
Tonight, NBC2's Gina Tomlinson is looking into this case.
If you've been to Republican events in Lee County, there's probably a good chance you've seen Carl Baxter. Friends say he's always wearing a red hat and a smile. The well-known black Trump supporter now has a lawsuit in federal court against a right-wing political group for being called a slave.
I don't know why he would go through this trouble if it wasn't true what he said.
According to the lawsuit, Baxter was working for the political group Americans for Prosperity. 12 days into the job, Baxter complained to his supervisor he felt he wasn't being properly paid. It was during that phone call, Baxter claims she said, "You are working as a slave, but at least you are getting paid. Many slaves today do get paid. Many used to never get paid. Are you a slave?" The suit says minutes later he was fired. The president of the NAACP in Lee County tells me he's known Baxter for 10 years. He's offended by the allegations.
He's not known as a reactionary type person, and I would venture to say that the lawsuit has merit.
The lawsuit also claims Baxter was here at Oasis Restaurant in downtown Fort Myers when he turned down a $500 bribe from another member of Americans for Prosperity. Baxter claiming he was asked to provide dirt on Cape Coral Council member Patty Cummings.
My husband used to make big donations to Americans for Prosperity.
Elaine Green with the Lee County Republican Executive Committee says the organization is not what it used to be.
They're the original people for open borders, Chamber of Commerce people, just everything opposite of what we want, less government, less intrusion.
The members mentioned in the lawsuit said they're not allowed to comment, and the organization hasn't gotten back to me. Baxter was in a meeting today. We're waiting on a response from his lawyer.
All right, cue the music.
I never thought the leopards would eat my face. Oh, I never thought the leopards would eat my face.
For those unacquainted with the leopard eating the face, let me consult the internet. A notional political party supported by people who believe its cruel, unjust, or extreme policies and rhetoric will only harm other people and are then shocked or displeased when these policies and rhetoric have adverse consequences to themselves. In other words, myopia and selfishness. That is it in a nutshell. What's that? You would like some examples? Oh, well, I would love to give you some examples. How about single mother Crystal Minton, who voted for Donald Trump because she wanted him to, quote, hurt people who opposed him. But after the government shut down in 2019, she found that she was the one being hurt by Trump. Minton, a secretary at a federal prison, was out of work during the shutdown and unable to care for her children and disabled parents. Quote, I voted for him and he's the one who's doing this, she told the New York Times. I thought he was going to do good things. He's not hurting the people he needs to be hurting. As long as he's hurting people, all right? Yeah, it's okay that he's hurting people as long as it's those people. How about another one? After funding conservative candidates that were focused on abortion, bathrooms, and transgender restrictions, Republican Party mega donor Peter Thiel found himself unhappy with the party's direction. As a result, he decided to refrain from donating to any candidates running for office in 2024. In response to the story, a Redditor in the LAMF, that's Leopards Eating My Face community, commented, "You bought the ticket, Thiel, now you take the ride." How about we go for one more? Fueled by their religious convictions, Republicans in several states successfully passed laws banning books containing inappropriate sexual content and sensitive subject matters. Unexpectedly, the Bible fell under those restrictions and was also banned. Republican lawmakers are now trying to reverse the book bans that they created. Welcome to the Leopards Eating People's Faces party. And by the way, these GOP leopards have eaten plenty of black conservative faces. I mean, there was Omarosa, there was Stacey Dash, and who can forget Rob Smith?
Yes, Nick Fuentes loves gay sex. No,
he doesn't.
America first! America first! America first! America first!
And these white supremacists absolutely do exist in this party. We all saw me face them from face to face. I'm looking at soulless, dead-eyed white supremacists that, by the way, I felt that these people could have bashed my brains in had they gotten the chance.
In fact, I have a brand new Rob Smith video on the way, thanks to Pilar, who emailed me at reese@reesewaters.com and hit me to this little ditty.
I'm going to tell you why black men are never going to vote for Kamala Harris, and it has nothing to do with the fact that she is quote-unquote black, because she's not even black. Black men are never going to vote for Kamala Harris because over the next 3 to 4 months, we are all going to be basically hit with this onslaught of all of these black women that are going to be telling black men that if they do not shut up and they do not get in line behind Kamala Harris, then they're all these sorts of things. They're going to be calling us all kinds of dogs. We hate black women. We don't respect them, etc., etc. And the same black women, okay, that are going to be elevated by the media and that are going to be going on all these cable news networks and doing all of this stuff on the internet, they are the same black women that black men can't stand. Okay? These are the same ones that are hectoring black men. These are the same ones that hate black men. These are the same ones that, by the way, are not even partnered with black men. These are the same ones that are elevated by dogging, denigrating, disrespecting black men. It is going to be the women that are telling black men that they have to vote for Kamala Harris. It is going to remind black men of every bitter baby mama. It is going to remind black men of every neck swiveling, bad attitude, masculinized black woman that they have ever dealt with in their entire life.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and have to address that. But back to the issue at hand, the dustiest club in America, welcome Carl Baxter. Okay, let's run this down. Headline, hard to feel sorry for him. Black Trump supporter mocked online after claiming he was called a slave by the conservative group he was campaigning for. I would agree with that. It's extremely hard to feel sorry for him. Let's dig in. Carl Baxter, a diehard Black Trump supporter from Florida, was 2 weeks in his new job promoting Republican policies when he realized he'd been underpaid for canvassing neighborhoods and knocking on doors. Now, he says he was underpaid. How much would they have to pay you to canvass neighborhoods and knock on doors on behalf of Republican policies and promoting them to the people? How much would they have to pay you to knock on doors to make sure that more people would call you a DEI? How much would they have to pay you to canvass neighborhoods, making sure that the people that are ensuring we never get a true accurate representation of American history is full? How much would they have to pay you? The article continues, but when he called his white supervisor to complain, Roxane Buckles told him he was a, quote, slave who should be grateful he's receiving any money at all, according to a federal lawsuit filed by Baxter on Monday, which accused Buckles of stating the following. I know you're doing the work and I can see the doors that you're hitting on my iPad on my side. Okay, I want to stop us right there. How? I need to understand, was he wearing an ankle monitor? How were you able to see the doors that he was not, are you somehow tripped into their doorbell cams? I think that deserves at least a little bit more scrutiny. Now, she continued, at least you are working as a slave, but at least you are getting paid. Many slaves today do get paid. Many used to never get paid. Are you a slave? Ooh, that's rough, Roxane. That is rough. I think where you really tripped up was where you said many used to never get paid. Because if you take that out and you say at least you're getting paid, many slaves today do get paid, then you could maybe make the argument that you were just talking about slave in the general sense, all right? Like people talk about the working man being a slave. But then when you drop many used to never get paid, you're actually talking about actual real life slaves to a Black person. That is, I would say it would be fireworthy in an employment sense, and also fireworthy in a street sense where somebody might fire off on you. But I guess I can't put anything past Florida these days. I really can't. In fact, I got a piece coming out just juxtaposing Florida with Texas and who exactly is the most deplorable. We are in one of those states right now. Now, Baxter, who is president of the Republican Club of North and East Fort Myers, was offended by the remark and asked Buckles to contact her supervisor. So he has to speak to the manager. I'm not actually mad at him for doing that. I'm not actually, no, when in Karen, when in Karen, this is where you're at. Buckles' supervisor, a white man named Tim Hennessy, who previously attempted to pay Baxter to provide dirt on a Cape Coral city council member, joined them in a three-way phone call to discuss the issue, Baxter's claim states. And this was a three-way phone call. I know we're in Florida, and you hear three-way in Florida, you might be thinking Moms for Liberty. No, this was a three-way phone call. I also wonder, why was it that he thought the same guy that offered to pay him to dig up dirt on somebody was going to be the moral authority here? Why would you think he would be the one to do the right thing? If anything, he's actually cutting a loose end by siding with her in this situation. Now, that conversation led to another three-way phone call. Again, not the Moms for Liberty type. This was a phone call between Hennessy, Baxter, and Jamie Franz, a white woman who works as an operations manager for Americans for Prosperity, the right-wing nonprofit that had hired Baxter to promote its agenda, but by the way, has never supported Trump. Franz wasted no time in firing Baxter, he claims. Oh man, that went left. That went left. You hate to see when going Karen doesn't work out. You hate to see when you ask to speak to the manager and all of a sudden they think that you are the wrong one. And I wonder why. I wonder why. Why was it that Baxter keeps losing these three-way phone calls? It It really baffles the mind. However, it's been more than 2 months since he was fired, and he still hasn't received the money owed to him, according to the lawsuit filed by Jay Lerner from Lerner Law in Tampa. Listed as defendants are two groups, Americans for Prosperity and a company called ICC Compliance, LCC, which is doing business as Talent Wave. The lawsuit states the two companies were joint employers of Baxter and accuses them of racial discrimination, retaliation, and wage theft. Defendants intentionally subjected plaintiff to disparate treatment, race discrimination, and violation of Section 1981 by subjecting him to less favorable benefits, privileges, terms, and conditions of employment than those experienced by similarly situated non-African American employees. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop us right there. Now, the thing with him not getting paid is understandable. The thing with him being called a slave, yes, those are grounds for your lawsuit. But now you're hitting me with conditions of employment less than those experienced by similarly situated non-African American employees, less favorable benefits, privileges, terms, and conditions. But all of this was okay before they called you a slave and didn't pay you. Is that what I'm gathering? Is that what I'm gathering? Because I don't understand if you felt like you were subjected to less favorable benefits, privileges, terms, and conditions, why you were still there for them to call you a slave. Unless your red hat had somehow convinced you that that was okay, right? Your red hat had convinced you that it was all cool for you to be subjected to less. You just fell in line, didn't you? You just fell in line, and all of a sudden they went too far, called you a slave. Now all of a sudden you become the moral authority. All the other stuff was fine. You can treat me like that, just don't call me that. Specifically, defendants refused to pay the plaintiff for his employment services, instead calling him a slave, but did pay similarly situated non-African American employees for their employment services. Baxter was hired as a grassroots organizer and began working on June 14th at a rate of $20 an hour and was to be paid weekly. He was also supposed to be reimbursed for his mileage. So now you have a price on a black soul. It is $20 an hour. Yeah, when I asked at the beginning, how much would they have to pay you to go out into the community and grassrootsly try and work against the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act? $20 an hour. Okay, at least we know. His main job duties required him to canvass neighborhoods and speak to voters about the policies being drafted by Americans for Prosperity, the conservative libertarian advocacy group founded by Charles Koch and the late David Koch, neither of whom has ever supported Trump, although that's a hair too small for me to even see at this point. Baxter, on the other hand, has long supported Trump, according to several photos on his Facebook page, where he's usually wearing a red MAGA cap and is usually the only black man standing among groups of white Republicans. So there you have it, thinking that the cap was going to make sure that you got fair treatment. You didn't, and you still decided to soldier on. But when they didn't pay you and called you the slave, that was too far. That you don't have to treat me equal, just at least 3/5 of equal. The lawsuit states that Hennessy approached Baxter shortly after he had started working and offered him $500 to provide dirt on Cape Coral Council member Patty Cummings, who earlier this month pleaded guilty to 3 felony counts of fraud for lying about where she lived while running for office in 2022. Cummings was suspended last year by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis shortly after her arrest, was sentenced to 24 months probation after pleading guilty. Baxter refused to accept the $500 to dig up dirt on Cummings, get this, because she was a loyal Trump supporter like himself. Now, when I was defining the leopards eating faces earlier, I talked about selfishness and myopia, right? Thinking that, oh, well, you just need to hurt the other people. Just don't hurt me. It's fine that you hurt the other people. That's what I want you to do. So you were okay with her fraud because she supported Trump. So it's really not about any sort of right and wrong. It's not about any sort of legal or illegal. It's about who you support. Just as long as I'm clear. Just as long as I'm clear, it's just about who you support. This is really giving, because I watch a lot of crime shows, I watch a lot of ID, and occasionally they'll interview like the mama or the sister of the perpetrator. He never hurt nobody. Ma'am, we found all of the evidence in a duffel bag in his closet, and it had his name on it. And he also, we also have video footage of him wearing those clothes and committing the crime. So I believe he did, in fact, hurt somebody. It wasn't that. It was a Thursday. And because he don't act regular on Thursday. Did he have a Snickers? I don't think he had a Snickers. He wouldn't have done that if he would have had his Snickers. The lawsuit states that AFP's goal was to stop President Trump from winning the Republican nomination in 2024's presidential primaries and locally to oppose politicians who support President Trump. And they were doing that by canvassing the community in support of conservative policies. That's what you're going with? That's what you want to go with? Hey, cue the song.
I never thought the leopards would eat my face. Oh, I never thought the leopards would eat my face.
Now here's what I have to ask you. If anybody brown who's not supporting their supremacist views is a DEI, if here in the state of Florida, they're trying to assert that slaves learn skills that help them moving forward. If that's where they're at with it, how am I supposed to react when all of a sudden they don't treat you like they treat everybody else when you were doing their work? Clearly, they see you as a tool that is useful to advance their views and nothing more. And that's pretty easy to see. The only reason you would sign up for that is all of the motivations of a pick-me. So how am I supposed to receive a pick-me when he limps back home? Like Omarosa before you and Stacey Dash and Rob Smith, y'all are just the sorriest prodigal sons and daughters we ever wanted to see. You definitely can't come to the front door, and I don't even know if the back is open. Now, do we have a racist of the week? I'm not entirely sure, but we certainly have a cornball of the week. Today's nominee, Jerry Jones and the NFL. No, don't. That's not right. No, the NFL cannot be racist because they sing in the Black National Anthem, before all the games. Well, how about the reaction?
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven.
Well, that's not the NFL's fault, though. They can't help that some of their fans are racist. I mean, those people take their cues from outspoken right-wing nuts like Harrison Butker.
That's not the kitchen. That's not the kitchen.
Speaking of which, the NFL just showed how accepting they are to all different kinds of points of view and understanding of players using their platform to spread their message. Conveniently after we as a country have normalized open racism, misogyny, and homophobia.
But I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world.
He's a kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I learned that kickers rarely get tackled. So based on his misogynistic rant during a recent commencement address, I'm guessing this Bible thumper thumped himself a little too hard with his Bible and gave himself CTE.
Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
First of all, Harrison, you're a kicker, so you have one important part of your body, and it's not your fucking brain.
I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you asked her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no.
Isabel, please blink twice if you need us to call for help. But the real kicker is that Harrison Butker's mother is a renowned physicist who has a degree in chemistry and a master's in medical physics. So, who paid for all those youth athletic team fees and uniform fees and equipment fees when Harrison was a kid so he could grow up to have a career making millions of dollars for fucking kicking things? My guess is a working woman. Harrison, this is the first time I've heard about you and hopefully the last. And after this, I'm going to go ahead and do what your fellow teammate does and just pretend like you don't exist.
I don't talk to Harrison all year long, man. I just let him do his thing. We sit right beside each other in team meeting and I don't say one word to him.
Well, the NFL has come a long way. Well, that much is true. I mean, Marlon Briscoe, the first black starting quarterback in the Super Bowl era, wasn't quarterbacky and setting multiple records at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. So the Denver Broncos put him at cornerback. That's right, they put my man on defense. So wasn't no water boy positions that was available. They didn't want him to seat people at Mile High Stadium. Put him at cornerback. After throwing for 14 touchdowns and only 5 starts and rescuing the team in the process, it had to get to that point for them to even give him an opportunity. And by the way, those are franchise rookie records. The Broncos still didn't think he was quarterbacky enough, and he had to continue his career as a receiver. Then there's Warren Moon, who wasn't quarterbacky enough, despite winning MVP of the Rose Bowl in 1977, had to go to the Canadian Football League and throw for 5,000 yards in a season to get an opportunity. Hey, you remember when Charlie Ward won a national championship and a Heisman Trophy and everybody knew he'd be the first black quarterback drafted in the first round since 1978, but then the NFL team said he was too short? So he played 12 seasons in the NBA, you know, the league that's built around height instead. Yes, I do, Michael Harriot. I definitely do. What do all these athletes have in common? Because it definitely isn't dual threat. If Warren Moon started running in 1977, he still wouldn't have a first down. But this was just last year.
This is what we do, in Rich, but I want my quarterbacks to be quarterbacky. And to me, Lamar Jackson's just a great athlete, and he's done a really good job, and he had a great game against the 49ers. Prisoners of the moment. He is not the MVP.
Hell, that video could have been an hour long. I'm a football fan here in D.C. where the founder of the team that used to be the Redskins, which is a convenient place to start, by the way, George Preston Marshall, was so racist, his name had to be pulled from all official team material as well as his name from the stadium's Ring of Fame. From the team that he founded. Marshall was an avowed segregationist and the last NFL owner to allow black players on the team. Yeah, a football team. He did so only in 1962 after President Kennedy's administration threatened to evict the team from playing in the stadium, which was built on federal property. So if you're scoring at home, he was willing to lose the team in order to keep a football team all white. That is some championship level racism right there. That's Super Bowl level racism. Even when Marshall died in 1969, his will stated that none of his estate was to go to any institution that backed school integration. He was racist from the grave, and his racism even outlived him. Fight for Old Dixie was in the fight song that I sang as a kid. Which brings us to current day, the team that is now the Commanders, which remains trash. I know eventually they'll get rid of it, but I mean, how you expect us to get excited for the football team only to come to the table and realize that we are still the Commanders? This is from Front Office Sports. The Commanders fired an executive, Raul Enteen, after he was secretly recorded by a woman working for longtime far-right cornball James O'Keefe. In the videos, Enteen answers a series of increasingly direct questions about his workplace while being recorded. A woman off camera repeatedly asks Enteen about his job duties, history, and workplace. She's identified in the video only as an operative for O'Keefe's company. The video advertises O'Keefe's American Swiper campaign to hire people to use dating apps to entrap and record unwitting subjects. And by unwitting subjects, we mean people that use dating apps, for dating. That is the world that we're in right now. If it's not somebody getting you to support somebody politically, if it's not somebody trying to fill out their kickball team, it's somebody working for James O'Keefe. Thank you for making the world a far worse place and making me extremely grateful to be married. I will say that, extremely grateful. Who knows what videos they'd have got of me back in the day. Now, if you're thinking that these have to be the worst people on the internet, you would be right. For years, O'Keefe produced similar videos of liberals and Democratic operatives for Project Veritas until he was fired in 2023 after the organization's board said he spent an excessive amount of donor funds in the last 3 years on personal luxuries. Last year, the Westchester, New York district attorney said he was criminally investigating O'Keefe. At the time, his lawyer said the investigation stemmed from disgruntled former employees of Project Veritas who had a problem with their CEO using too many car services to pay for fundraising efforts, which paid their salaries. You know, the car services paid their salaries. Now, as for what he actually said, the video showed N-Teen, the team's VP of content, insulting, quote, mouth-breathing fans, racist owners, and homophobic players. Quote, most of the fans, I would say, are high school educated alcoholics, adding that they are mouth breathers. Now, as somebody that is actually a member of said fan base, he's not wrong, okay? He's not wrong. All right, he is accurate. You just can't say that as a representative of the team. Once it's out there, you can't pull that one back. Now, though O'Keefe has an extensive history of selectively editing videos or outright doctoring them, the Commanders distanced themselves from N-Teen in a statement on Wednesday. Quote, the language used in the video runs counter to our values at the Commanders organization. We have suspended the employee pending an internal investigation and will reserve further comment at this time. He was later fired. N-Teen's LinkedIn page says he was hired by Washington as senior director of content in 2020 before current owner Josh Harris purchased the team after working for the XFL and the New York Jets. Well, there it is right there. I mean, this is some XFL New York Jets stuff. Not to mention he was a Dan Snyder hire. You can't expect a Dan Snyder hire to operate in any other way. Now, he locked his social media accounts after the publication of the video, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The videos show N-Teen calling NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell a $50 million puppet and saying Cowboys owner Jerry Jones is the true commissioner. N-Teen appears cynical about the league's performative social justice initiatives and said Jones, quote, hates gay people and black people. What? Jerry Jones hates black people. Not the Jerry Jones who was identified with a mob opposing the integration of schools. Not that Jerry Jones. Not the Jerry Jones who called Trump the hardest worker he's ever seen. I am shocked. As for him calling the NFL's social justice efforts performative, to object to that, you would have to think that these owners have had a come to Jesus moment and completely reconstructed who they are on the inside in the course of the last few years, while also maintaining little to no progress when it comes to integrating their upper offices and their upper management. Yeah. Now, is that good or is that bad? Well, I will say this. Performative gestures in and of themselves aren't bad per se. You would have to say, oh, well, is it better if they were just like openly hostile and like openly racist, as opposed to letting them sing the Black National Anthem and riling up all of MAGA? And that is a fair point. However, if those performative justice efforts then provide you cover for you to continue to operate the way that you were operating, then it's extremely problematic and damaging. It'd be like if you start coming home with flowers and candy for your spouse on the regular, just to turn around and leave at 11 p.m. and stay out all night the way that you used to. Where you been all night? That bouquet of roses says I do what I want to. N-Teen said the team's black players are from a community that is inherently very homophobic and repeatedly referred to players suffering from head injuries. Perhaps the most interesting moment in the videos comes when Ntine appears to admit being pressured into lying through the team's official social media accounts. He recalled an infamous incident in 2021 when sewage rained on Washington fans and he had to tweet that it was actually water, spin he referred to as state-run media. And if you are at all familiar with Dan Snyder, you know that is not an exaggeration. That is definitely not an exaggeration, nor is it the idea of sewage raining down on fans. I had to look up again and see what year that was because it feels like sewage regularly spills down on fans of that particular franchise. In fact, anytime that we watch a game of this franchise and there is not sewage that is spilling down on fans, we consider a win. We consider that anytime that this franchise is not trending for something going horrifically wrong with the stadium, we consider a win. Yeah. We went 7-10 last year. As for the issues at hand, head trauma is something that's going to be a continual point of discussion moving forward, considering how little we know about the long-lasting effects. However, the fact that he is that concerned about it tells you it is a very real thing. As far as homophobia is concerned, well, we have seen the volume of players to come out after they no longer had to be in those locker rooms. So that should tell you a whole lot about how open and accepting an environment it in fact is. As far as the racism is concerned, well, we know the history and we also see what your board's looking like. We also see what your management's looking like, and we also see what your coaching ranks are looking like. So as far as I'm concerned, between James O'Keefe and this woman and the NFL and Jerry Jones and these fans on social media, there is one honest person in this entire story. And he was fired for it. Today's nominee, she's got a trunk full of them, Laura Loomer. All right, run the clip.
Conspiracy peddlers, we should note, a veritable legion of doom of bigots and liars, perhaps none so depraved as this woman, Laura Loomer. Here she is getting off of Trump's plane before yesterday's debate. Just on Sunday, she posted an insanely racist message that if Harris, whose mom was an Indian immigrant, wins, quote, the White House will smell like curry and White House speeches will be facilitated via a call center, unquote. On this 23rd anniversary of 9/11, we should also note Loomer posted last year that 9/11 was a, quote, inside job, unquote. Trump continues to bring this person along on his travels with him. Why? I don't know.
If Kamala Harris wins, the White House will smell like curry and the White House speeches will be facilitated via a call center, and the American people will only be able to convey their feedback through a customer satisfaction survey at the end of the call that nobody will understand. Now, I'll be completely honest. This is pretty light work from Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer, she is somebody whose internet work is personally responsible for reconnecting families. You open up social media and you scroll to a Laura Loomer post and you close it down, put your phone in the drawer and hug your family and thank the Lord that they aren't Laura Loomer. Well, somebody decided that they wanted to weigh in response to Laura Loomer's tweet. This comes from Marjorie Taylor Greene herself, who says, this is appalling and extremely racist. It does not represent who we are as Republicans or MAGA. This does not represent President Trump. This type of behavior shouldn't be tolerated ever. Laura Loomer should take this down. Now, a couple things about this post from Marjorie Taylor Greene. She actually hits on something that I've mentioned here previously, which is she said that this doesn't represent President Trump. And what I have asserted is that as long as she continues to get all of these invites, to the debate, as long as they're parading her around and giving her props from the podium, this absolutely represents President Trump, and it is something that the Democrats should highlight every single chance that they get. Oh, that's your girl? Well, this must be you then, huh? That's your girl? Well, this must be you then, huh? That's your girl? Well, this must be you then, huh? Now, we've seen this kind of MAGA on MAGA crime before. I just did a whole video about Nick Fuentes commenting on Trump's admission that he lost the 2020 election.
2020 comment, it's like, wow, that's how pathetic it's gotten. He's admitting, he says, oh, I lost by a whisker. So what was the point? Like, what's the point of any of it? You lost in 2020? Seriously? I mean, what are we even doing anymore? Then you're a loser. Then you're a loser. You just lost. Then you lost to Joe Biden. You deserve to be charged. If he admits that he lost, then that actually vindicates the DOJ charge against him. Because the charge is that he knew he lost, but he lied to defraud the people. That's the DOJ's charge. So why did we do Stop the Steal? Why did anyone go to January 6th? Why is anyone sitting in jail? Why did anything bad happen to anybody? Why did everyone get censored? Why is everything bad that has happened to the people that are involved, why did that need to happen if you're just going to walk it all back and say, oh, I lost? Well, it would have been good to know that.
There's been Ann Coulter on Trump.
Yeah, well, he's always known how to be a celebrity, right? Like that reminded me of the reality TV show aspect of Trump, right? He knew.
I think you're giving him more credit. I don't even think it's knowing how to be. I think he's a narcissistic. The one thing I didn't know when I wrote In Trump We Trust is how profoundly stupid he is.
There's been Ann Coulter on Vivek.
Oh, and I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian.
There was Marjorie Taylor Greene versus Mike Johnson.
Not Marjorie Taylor Greene holding Speaker Mike Johnson accountable and saying that we need new leadership, everyone. We need a Speaker of the House that actually acts like a Republican. We need a Speaker of the House that doesn't fund the open border invasion. We need a Speaker of the House that doesn't fund full-term abortion clinics. We need a Speaker of the House that doesn't fund the trans agenda on children in our country. These are not extreme statements that I'm making. These are statements that the American people agree with. And any Republican member of the House that is attacking me and defending Mike Johnson right now is finding out at home from their constituents they're wrong and they're on the wrong team.
There was Kevin McCarthy versus Matt Gaetz.
Speaking. What night are you speaking? Are you speaking tonight? Or one person? No. Hey, you're not. If you took that stage, you would get booed off of it. You would get booed off the stage.
But what you're seeing here, a more united Republican Party. Think back 8 years ago. Ted Cruz wouldn't endorse. Senator Lee was saying no to President Trump. Now you've got Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis. You're watching a united party like we haven't been in the past. One who's not coming back, and then the other part that you have, and the other part you have is one person who raised the issue. He's got an ethics complaint about sleeping with a 17-year-old. So that's the way they would go. So that's the biggest challenge we have.
There was Makeup versus Matt Gaetz. There was Decency versus Matt Gaetz. There was Everybody versus Lauren Boebert.
And I want all of the news to start asking the question, what is the crime?
There was Marjorie Taylor Greene versus Everybody.
Declaring the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives to be vacant. This is the uniparty for the American people watching.
Gentlelady will suspend.
There was Lauren Boebert versus decency. And of course, who could forget the battle between Rudy Giuliani and his shape-ups?
Cue the music. I never thought the leopards would eat my face. Oh, I never thought the leopards would eat my face. But they are!
Now, I didn't think that Laura Loomer was going to be the kind of person to take this lying down, and even the thought of that is disturbing and makes me want to get off the internet. Hopefully she lies down as little as possible. This was her first response to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Once again, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is extremely jealous and vindictive over the fact that she wasn't successful in turning Donald Trump against me, is now behaving like a leftist and accusing me of being racist. Kamala Harris is on video calling herself Indian and saying she cooks with curry. She also refuses to speak to the media, so there's a strong likelihood she would set up a call center to avoid speaking to the press and being honest with the American people. Hey, MTG, speaking of racism, one of your former staffers told me you have a favorite word that starts with N. What if the staffer has a video? It's rather ironic that MTG wants to call me a racist when MTG is a full-blown anti-Semite who believes that Jewish people use space lasers to control the world. Along with being an anti-Semite, Marjorie Taylor Greene is also a poor excuse for a Christian. Her marriage failed because she couldn't keep her legs closed while she was a new member of Congress and was too busy screwing some guy from her CrossFit. She's not representative of the GOP or what it means to be America first. Nobody talks about her anymore because she's annoying and irrelevant and a sellout. Hey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, how come you weren't at the debate? Guess you gave up on Trump when he gave up on your boyfriend, Speaker McCarthy. Don't talk about representing Donald Trump when you paid for the Yay 2024 domain and used your campaign funds to orchestrate the dinner between Nick Fuentes and Kanye West. I exposed you months ago, and I'll do it again, you trailer trash harpy. Ooh, that was a whole lot. That was a whole, I felt like that was in drafts already. I felt like she knew that something was coming and she just needed to press in on that particular one. Now, I'm not going to sit here and dispute that Marjorie Taylor Greene's favorite word starts with N, or that she thinks that Jewish people use space lasers to control the world. I'm not going to dispute any of that, and I certainly won't dispute any of the CrossFit allegations. But I will 1,000% dispute that she doesn't represent the GOP. Oh, you mean the woman who's one of their top 5 fundraisers on Capitol Hill? You mean to tell me she don't represent the GOP? So Marjorie Taylor Greene's behavior is so out of bounds with your tweets, right? So, right? You are so offensive and racist. Oh, but here's what I have to say. Oh, she's absolutely representative of Trump and the GOP. Thank you so much for coming. Now, in thinking that Laura Loomer would be done, I just asserted that she was a normal person who would happen to be busy and wouldn't have time to go on a... Oh, no, there's more. It's really funny how Marjorie Taylor Greene, a raging anti-Semite who said Jews use space lasers to control the world, wants to pretend like I'm a racist because I made a funny joke about Kamala Harris making cooking videos and buying curry spice at an anti-Trump spice shop, and I mocked how she uses her Indian mom as a way to dodge questions. I will say, as a person that has dabbled in comedy before, 6 out of 10. 6 out of, I won't just say it was funny, but 6 out of, it's not terrible. I won't be apologizing for having a sense of humor. I also believe in free speech, Marjorie Taylor Greene, which you clearly don't support. I get it. You're jealous of me because despite your planted hit pieces about me in the New York Times, I won. Get over it. Now I see why she gets along with Trump so well, because Trump at the debate actually bragged about how he fires people, completely ignoring the fact that he hired said people. Like, you get credit for firing people after you've hired badly. Here you have her taking credit for surviving hit pieces. Most people don't have to survive hit pieces. But tweet on, Laura Loomer. Hey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, remember when you destroyed your family so you could have sex with a Zangief cosplayer? Now that's funny. That's what you should have just went with it off the top. I don't know why you had to bring Kamala Harris into it. There's your A material. Why are you burying your A material in the third tweet? That was good work. Remember when you destroyed your family so you could have sex with a Zangief cosplayer? Who's writing her stuff? Tell me again how you and the Arby's in your pants are representatives of the GOP. What am I supposed to do with that? Huh? What am I supposed to do with that? Huh? Why do I have to pick a side here? You know what? Why? I don't want to give her. You know what? I'm a man of integrity. Arby's didn't deserve that, huh? Arby's just wants to make healthy roast beef sandwiches. They just want to make affordable, healthy meals, and they have to get brought into this. You know, think of the innocent Americans that are suffering because of the image that you just put in people's heads. Arby's, free Arby's. That's my walk away. It's free Arby's. She continues, you couldn't even run your own family. Don't tell me how to run my free speech. Now here, actually, Laura Loomer hits on something that I have asserted. The party of family values, led by Trump, who you worship. So you want to attack Marjorie Taylor Greene for not being able to run her own family, but then run behind Trump, who's on marriage number 3, who has cheated on all 3 of his wives. That's what we're doing. And don't get to talking about families, because we know that ain't a united front. The contradictions are so wild. This is, you know, I'm going to leave here worse. I'm going to leave here worse, just by osmosis, just for being around this level of insanity. Now, in response to a user saying Marjorie Taylor Greene has never been MAGA, she just used the movement for her own personal advancement, please continue taking her down until her career is over, Loomer responds, I hope anyone is successful in removing Marjorie Taylor Greene from office, Republican or Democrat. DM me for free oppo on Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'll give it to any of her opponents for free. Now, here's where we need to stop down. In that video about Carl Baxter, right? That was the black man who was canvassing in Florida, the very pro-Trump MAGA, who decided he was going to oppose the group that had hired him because they apparently called him a slave. But he also asserted that he was offered money in order to provide dirt on one of the other women in the organization. And he said no, because she was a Trump supporter. To which I said, so it's not actually about, is she a person of trust? Is she somebody that should have this position? It's just about who you support. Like, you're okay with whatever behavior based on who you support. So you're standing on nothing, and you're admitting that you're standing on nothing. In this particular instance, Laura Loomer has said that she was willing to offer oppo research to anybody who takes her out, Republican or Democrat. What part of the GOP game is that? I need to know what. I love it. I love it. I'm just wondering how you're able to continue to take steps forward and feel like you're doing work as a Republican activist when you're willing to offer Oppo research to Marjorie Taylor Greene because you had a fight on Twitter. That is their level of integrity. Now at this, no, she's not done. There's more? J6 prisoners are suffering in jail because of Marjorie Taylor Greene's lies. She raised money off of her empty promise to free J6ers. She got rich in Congress trading stocks and let the J6ers rot. You can't trust her. Now she's attacking me and Donald Trump. Oh no, she's not attacking Donald Trump. She's attacking you. Thanks for the stocks though. Thanks for the stock tip. That I'm sure that will be useful Oppo research. Now, it's at this point that Laura Loomer decided to go with video. And you know, once they start going into the phone archives, you know it's deep. Then posted Marjorie Taylor Greene is two-faced. She used to call me, begging me to write her one-liners that she could read in Congress about Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. And now she's acting like a lefty, calling me racist over a funny joke. You mean one-liners like the Arby's thing? Is that what you're talking about? And the Zangief joke? Okay. That seems to be her brand of humor. I see why she would ask that. This is a woman who has no convictions. Like a hooker, she sells herself to the highest bidder. Her highest bidder in her case was Speaker McCarthy. Now she's irrelevant and she's lashing out because she's jealous. Why is Marjorie Taylor Greene working with Democrats to attack Trump allies 50 days out from the election? It's time for people to come to terms with the fact that this woman is not who she pretends to be. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the most miserable lying bee in Congress, and we need to inform more MAGA patriots of how treacherous this woman is. One thing that is consistent of MAGAs is their persecution complex. They're not attacking Trump allies. They're attacking you. Yeah, they're attacking you. And it's not Marjorie Taylor Greene teaming with Democrats. It is Marjorie Taylor Greene joining the human race in opposition to how you move. That is a very significant distinction. There's more? Okay. Why did Marjorie Taylor Greene team up with MSNBC and the rest of left-wing media to demonize the only journalist who's exposing the wrongdoings of Judge Merchan and his daughter? When they know they don't want to talk about families, that's the last thing that they want to talk about. That would be like the GOP bringing up military service. Oh, they did? They did? Wow. Have you noticed you never see MTG speak out about the lawfare against Trump anymore? Why did she take a month-long vacation right after Trump was shot? And why did she lie about the releasing of J6 tapes, only to say we shouldn't for the sake of protecting the security of the Capitol? Why does MTG continue to support and work with Kevin McCarthy, who's openly working to sabotage Donald Trump? Why doesn't she ever speak out about Fani Willis and voter fraud in Georgia? We know why. MTG planted a hit piece against me when I was hired by Trump in March of 2023, only to have that sabotaged when MTG worked with Maggie Haberman to plan a hit piece against me, and now she's doing it again because she wants to sabotage Trump because she wasn't picked as VP. First of all, I don't know that Marjorie Taylor Greene was ever seriously considered for VP. But if we're taking shots and throwing strays at Maggie Haberman, I support it. I got a whole video coming out about Maggie Haberman. Look out for that. Why would you, as a sitting member of Congress, work with MSNBC to try and sabotage one of President Trump's most vocal allies, who's doing all of the heavy lifting as it relates to research to expose his enemies? Now, here is where you see the persecution complex in 4K. So anything that I do, if I get any criticism, all of a sudden you're sabotaging one of President Trump's most vocal allies. So pretty much I am invulnerable no matter what I say and no matter what I do. No matter how racist, sexist, vile and disgusting my behavior, any opposition is sabotaging one of President Trump's most vocal allies. Got it. I got it. MTG is hoping Donald Trump loses. She's a very jealous woman who's now working with MSNBC to attack his greatest ally. She must be condemned by all of MAGA. Again, by MSNBC, she means the human race. Fight back, Marjorie Taylor Greene!
I have concerns about her rhetoric and her hateful tone. To me, many of the comments that she makes and how she attacks Republicans like me, many other Republicans that are strong supporters of President Trump, I think they're a huge problem. And that doesn't represent MAGA as a whole. It doesn't represent who we are as Republicans. And, you know, I typically try to ignore her post, but someone had sent me that post about Kamala Harris, and it bothered me so much. And you know my personality, everyone knows I'm outspoken, and I just felt like it was time to call it out. I think it's wrong. We're not a party of identity politics. We're a party for all Americans. And I think that's so important. And I think that we need to be focused on our policies, the inflation, the economy, and the border, and not attacking people for their race, not attacking them because they may not have children and they love their pets. And I don't want to have anything to do with that. And neither do the people, my voters at home in my district, and most people I talk to across the country. And so, yeah, I called her out last night, and I think it was important to do.
Ooh, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene got the last word. No. While you were busy having sexual affairs, cheating on your husband and getting divorced, and propping up Speaker McCarthy and engaging in insider trading in Congress, MTG, I broke many of the stories regarding the weaponized lawfare against President Trump. I traveled to the Darien Gap to expose the invasion firsthand and captured illegal aliens on camera who pledged to vote for Democrats. I took down Ron DeSantis. Okay, so you got other MAGA heads on your wall. All right, fair enough. And by the way, that first paragraph, you reused all that. Yeah, you reused all. Now you biting off yourself now. I took down Ron DeSantis and defended Donald Trump for all the backstabbers who tried to defeat him in the primary. Just in case you were wondering if she's a right-wing activist or a devout conservative, no, this is a Trump sycophant who has no loyalty to anything that's not Trump. Just so we're clear. And congratulations, GOP, for empowering these people. You took a month-long vacation right after Donald Trump was almost assassinated. That's the second time she brought that up. I wonder what she's trying to insinuate. And you have lied about impeaching Biden, you lied about impeaching Mayorkas, and you lied about releasing the J6 tapes, and then said they shouldn't be released. I've done all the heavy lifting while you've been writing books and attacking Trump's closest allies in an effort to elevate yourself. You even attacked J.D. Vance in your clip below, but you don't have the courage to say his name. She probably didn't say his name because she wanted to keep the reporters around. Really, because anything, not only is he boring, he makes anything else boring. Like, you just mention his name and all of a sudden I want to walk away. Like, when I read it, I just wanted to end this video. You've been telling voters in Georgia that Donald Trump is not going to win the election, and so you think it's best to forge an alliance with Kamala Harris. Yeah, because that's a thing that's happening. Why have you declined to assist election integrity activists in Georgia who are trying to secure the election? Probably because you don't want to get arrested like those people likely will at some point if they keep moving the way they're moving. What's that, Lindsey Graham? You being reasonable? You can get some too. My, have the chickens come home to roost. Now, what we have here is the inevitable outcome when you attract the most hateful bunch possible. It's only a matter of time before it becomes a hate firing squad, okay? It's only a matter of time. And by the way, I can't believe that I've gone this far in the video without cueing the music. Hey, Laura Loomer versus Marjorie Taylor Greene, cue the music.
I never thought the leopards would eat my face. Oh, I never thought the leopards would eat my face. But they are!
Also important to keep in mind, none of this is about principles. None of this is about conservatism. None of this is about issues. This is about the ego of one man in Donald Trump and how his ego now infects his sycophants. Now it's about her ego. She can't take any level of criticism without going nuclear and characterizing it as a sabotage of Trump and his supporters. You're incapable of being racist. You're incapable of being sexist. You're incapable of being Islamophobic. You're incapable of being homophobic. You are incapable of being wrong in any way without it being a sabotage of Donald Trump and his supporters. And you wonder why he moves the way that he does, why he won't in the debate admit to things that the rest of us already know are true, and in some cases wouldn't even be that problematic to admit. He just can't do it. We have had a complete movement infected by the mindset of third grade. That is what we see right here. The bully mentality, my way or the highway, I can never be wrong. Things that we typically work out by the time we get to junior high, that is operating at its highest level at the head of one of our major political parties. Also of note here, what's happening to Marjorie Taylor Greene is exactly why this kind of movement has elevated itself and permeated the Republican Party, because people don't want to be on the wrong side of the most wild, unhinged folks that have no business being in positions of power. Once they get there, people don't want to end up on the wrong side of a tweet storm, so they go along with this nonsense and don't call it out. And as much as I never want to give Marjorie Taylor Greene credit, I will give her credit for calling it out. But in calling it out, this is what happens. And all of a sudden, you get all of this litany of offenses exposed. The kinds of things that somebody in my position might say, by the way. I think it's pretty rich that she's calling Marjorie Taylor Greene a leftist, because she certainly sounded like one in her takedown of Marjorie Taylor Greene. But again, these are all things that you presumably knew before she posted her opposition to your tweet. But it was totally fine yesterday, right? Today's nominee, the Fraternal Order of Police. Now help me with something. Patrick Yos, the national president of the Fraternal Order of Police, announced the members of the FOP have voted to endorse Donald Trump for president of the United States. Quote, public safety and border security will be important issues in the last months of this campaign. Our members carefully considered the positions of the candidates on the issues, and there was no doubt, zero doubt, as to who they want as our president for the next 4 years, Donald J. Trump.
Our members have spoken, and it is my honor to share with you the overwhelming collective will of our membership. We are honored to have with us today the former and future President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and offer him our enthusiastic endorsement. During his time in the White House, we had a partner and a leader. Today, Mr. President, we stand with you. We stand with you and we have your back, and we're committed to work tirelessly for your election.
I am so deeply honored to receive the Fraternal Order of Police official endorsement for President of the United States. Thank you all very much in the room. I know you vote on that.
Now, of course, not everybody was in agreement.
Durham Sheriff Clarence Burkhead says he's joining with more than 100 law enforcement officials across the country to condemn Trump's endorsement from the Fraternal Order of Police and endorse Vice President Kamala Harris. During a Harris-Walz press call, Sheriff Burkhead called out the group for supporting a convicted felon over a former prosecutor, adding that he's endorsing Harris because she, quote, understands the needs of communities like mine and has always had our back, end quote.
But let me just break this down. I don't want to assume that it's something nefarious and racist, but why don't y'all help me? So Kamala Harris was the former DA of San Francisco. She was elected Attorney General of California in 2010 and reelected in 2014. Of course, she was a senator before becoming vice president. Donald Trump, on the other hand,
you've got a nearly $500 million civil fraud judgment, a jury in the E. Jean Carroll case unanimously deciding that Donald Trump is liable for sexual battery and defamation. Another jury in New York in a criminal case unanimously finding Donald Trump guilty of 34 felony crimes. A grand jury in Washington, D.C. that indicted Donald Trump for trying to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. You've also got a grand jury indicting Donald Trump down in Florida for unlawfully retaining classified documents, obstructing justice, and violating our nation's espionage laws. And don't forget, you've got both a trial court judge and a state Supreme Court in Colorado ruling and affirming that Donald Trump engaged in insurrection. Need I go on, friends? Donald Trump is de facto disqualified from ever holding office. Again, never mind the highest office in the land.
Oh yeah, there's a reason I went with Sweetness 34. And that's just what's happening right now. From the 1970s until he was elected president in 2016, Trump and his businesses were involved in over 4,000 legal cases in U.S. federal and state court, including battles with casino patrons, million-dollar real estate lawsuits, personal defamation lawsuits, and over 100 business tax disputes, and one very special case of housing discrimination against black people. So I guess he really is one of us, right? I guess he really is one of us. Now help me with this Fraternal Order of Police, because here I thought that police and DAs always needed to maintain a good working relationship, right? Isn't that the reason that I'm always given as to why this cop or that cop wasn't prosecuted when we have video of them in 4K?
Get out! What part of law don't you understand? Hey, Drew, I'm getting arrested, Drew.
Hey, your license right now. I'm leaving. Or I'm gonna lock you up. Your license right now. He just told me to your license right now. You're dealing with me now. Sir.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get there. So help me make sense of this. I don't want to just assume it's racism or sexism, but let's examine all of the possible ways that this is absurd. For one, he rejects the FBI crime statistics. He's the one who's always out here asserting how this city is burning, that city is crime-laden, that city has criminals running rampant. He makes y'all look horrible. He told me that I got robbed and assaulted on my way to the Washington Monument, and I don't even remember none of it. So help me out here. How is it the man who's constantly calling out y'all's work is the one who you decide that you want to stand behind? And that's after you have all the cases and the fact that she's a former DA and a former attorney general. How is it that the man who literally says cops in America are completely impotent is the one who gets all of your support? What's that? Oh, so the fact that he just calls out the crime is totally disconnected from his support of law enforcement. Okay, because a normal person with an operable brain would say, well, why is it that the cops are so incapable of doing anything about the crime when they take up such an outsized portion of our budgets every year? Oh, so they're just going to get more money. So we're just going to throw more money at it. Oh, so all credit and no blame. Never blame? Oh, okay. Then you have the fact that this man is devoutly anti-union. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Fraternal Order of Police is a union, if I'm not correct, right? That would happen to be a union, right? You know how he feels about unions.
President Trump spent 4 years in office distinguishing himself as the most anti-union president of the last 3 decades.
The man stands against everything that working class people stand for, that organized labor stands for.
When Donald Trump was president of the United States, his Labor Department prevented 8.2 million workers from receiving overtime pay by lowering the overtime threshold that the Obama administration established.
So you have the guy who revels in his ability to crush the working man, and specifically collective bargaining, which is what you do. He also calls you out specifically for how ineffective you are at doing anything about the crime. And he has a litany of cases, and she's the former prosecutor. That's who you decided you were going to support. Then you have the fact that this is the man who's behind and responsible for everything that we saw on January 6th. How are the Capitol Police supposed to react to seeing you support the man that had them pressed up against the barriers and overrun and refused to move to get them reinforcements? In fact, this man called the very criminals who broke into the Capitol hostages. He played them singing the national anthem at his rallies.
The former president hailing the January 6th rioters. He opened with images showing the mob being pushed back by law enforcement and a recording of jailed rioters singing, get this, the national anthem. An announcer called them the J6 Choir.
Just so we're clear, this man with the litany of cases played audio of criminals who assaulted police singing the national anthem at his rallies. And he's who you decide to support. They had a January 6th gala scheduled at his golf course. So I need to know exactly who are the blue that are being backed and who are the blue that aren't being backed. I think I'm getting the idea. So Kamala Harris is the kind of blue that isn't backed, or should I say the kind of brown. Now we got a nice little sandwich of the litany of cases that he has, him being devoutly anti-union. We have the January 6th incident. How about we sprinkle on top a little disrespect to the military? Yeah, the man who decided that he was going to use a sacred area of Arlington Cemetery for campaign purposes, then decided after one of his folks assaulted a worker at the cemetery, they were going to attack the worker. Their campaign responded by asserting that the worker was having some sort of mental health crisis.
Former President Donald Trump is now claiming the Army is lying about what happened when he visited Arlington National Cemetery with some Gold Star families whose loved ones were killed during the chaotic U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. It was a made-up story, Trump wrote on his social media site Tuesday, claiming there were no fights or problems and blaming Vice President Kamala Harris and her misinformation squad. The Harris campaign declined to comment and referred us to her statement Saturday, when she said the former president disrespected sacred ground, all for the sake of a political stunt. NPR first reported last week that 2 members of Trump's campaign staff had a verbal and physical altercation with a cemetery official on August 26 as the campaign tried to film in a section of Arlington reserved for recently killed service members. The Trump team strongly denied it, even telling NPR that it was prepared to release footage and claiming the Arlington staffer was clearly suffering from a mental health episode. To date, the campaign has not released any video.
This is the kind of thug that you decide that you want to stand behind. We got disrespected them, and that's just what's happening now. We can get into the I like people that weren't captured with John McCain. We can get to the losers and suckers. I mean, Take your pick. I feel particularly let down by black conservative Twitter. Yeah, the black conservatorship has really let, because they told me that, you know, Michaela Montgomery and Officer Tatum and Amber Rose and Candace Owens, they told me he was Mr. Criminal Justice Reform.
But when I saw what the president accomplished, what many said never would or could be done, it renewed my beliefs that true criminal justice reform, which keeps our communities safe, but allows ex-offenders a real opportunity to come home and be successful, can be achieved in the United States.
They told me that this man was Mr. Criminal Justice Reform. He was really down with us, you know, even though he didn't even know Sonia Massey's name.
Sonia Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something.
And still called for immunity the same week that the video became public.
We're going to give immunity to police so they can do their job. I'm giving federal immunity to police officers so they can do their job.
They told me that Trump was the one that was really pushing the criminal justice reform, only to blindly try and seek and grant immunity to all cops, and then try to say that Kamala was the one that was locking up the homies. Well, if Kamala was the one that was locking up the homies, then surely she should have the support of police, right? We can't have it both ways.
Michaela Montgomery, on this day, September 3rd, 2024, we acknowledge and present you with your degree from Trump University. Be it known, upon this day, by virtue of evolving into a deranged black MAGA grifter with no shame or adherence to facts, who blindly supports Donald Trump, a twice impeached, 34-time convicted felon, election denier, serial liar, chaos agent, and wannabe dictator, has completed a dubious course of study with all honors and privileges pertaining thereto. Michaela Montgomery is hereby awarded the degree of Bachelor of Science in Bullshit Communications for demonstrating outstanding proficiency in the art of spinning fiction as truth, manipulating facts, and creating false narratives that defy logic and reality. Please let us know what address to send you your degree.
Kamala was locking up the homies. Trump is Mr. Criminal Justice Reform, but Trump wants to give him blanket immunity and has the FOP's endorsement. Make any of this make sense, huh? They did? They just sat up there and lied? All of the black MAGA, they just lied? I wonder if they connected to the Russians. Black Russians are delicious. It's at this point I would like to address the borderline doomsday preppers, all of the people that are in these random, absurdly named militias that sound like clubhouses for 7-year-old boys. All you militiamen, all you don't tread on me guys, all you 2A pushers who always want to assert that you are resisting governmental tyranny and you want to be ready just in case of governmental overreach, I need to know why you are so quiet on these assertions of Trump giving blanket immunity to police. I just need to know where you stand on that. Yeah, just help me with that. Because I know you love your MAGA hat. I know you love your Confederate flag jacket. And I know you love your AR-15, okay? But I just need to be clear that you are in favor of blanket immunity for police officers while at the same time asserting your independence and your ability to protect yourself from governmental overreach. I'm just trying to make sure you're simultaneously making those 2 points. So FOP, you chose to endorse a felon over a former DA, threw all of the Capitol Police and the January 6 cops under the bus, completely contradicted Back the Blue, disrespected the military, completely ignored that you're an actual union. Wow. White supremacy is a hell of a drug. Immunity really is a hell of a drug. Kind of funny how the willingness to do anything for immunity isn't more of a indictment, you know, like it would be in literally any other scenario. Now, do you think the rest of the month can top that? Actually, that was a joke. We haven't even gotten to Springfield, Ohio, so of course it can. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I especially want to thank those of you that have been emailing me at reese@reesewaters.com. I do look at it, and I wanted to say I've taken a number of suggestions just in the past week. I think half the videos were suggested from emails that I received from you guys, so keep them coming. And just because I may not be able to respond doesn't mean that I don't see it, and it doesn't mean that it's not impactful, because the email and the feedback that I get from you guys shapes my perception of the people that are consuming my content. So it really does impact the direction that we take moving forward. So just because I may not respond to your email doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. So thank you guys very much. Of course, we have the website, ReeseWaters.com. There's some new merch on the website as well, so be on the lookout for that. And by the way, if you get some merch, if you get a shirt or hat or whatever the case may be, send me a photo of yourself with it. Maybe put in the title merch pick or something like. I could think of a way better subject title. Those of you that have signed up for my newsletter, use the portal on my website. I appreciate you guys for doing that. There'll be a new newsletter that is going out shortly, and in it will be updates on channel membership. That's right, something that you guys have been mentioning to me for a long time. We're finally on the precipice of it, so you can get all the details and the membership. Again, you can sign up on my website or send me an email at reese@reesewaters.com. There is so much on the horizon, and I, for one, am extremely grateful that you're along with me on this ride. Today's nominee, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Now in part two, I'll do a little debating about whether or not J.D. Vance was the worst vice presidential nominee in U.S. history. There was this.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans?
And this.
Look, I love my wife so much. I love her because she's who she is. Obviously, she's not a white person.
And this.
And this is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that, like, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, you know, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term. And maybe it worked out for the moms and dads, though I'm skeptical, but it really didn't work out for the kids.
And then there was this.
Is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
They've been trying to run away from that for weeks. I guess Sarah Huckabee Sanders never got the message.
So my kids keep me humble. Unfortunately, Kamala Harris doesn't have anything keeping her humble.
Oh, those women are going to love that. I guess the news didn't make it all the way to Arkansas. Oh, apparently it did. That literally needs to be its own video. There is way too much to list, but I woke up on Sunday, as I've woken up every Sunday since the RNC, to, did you hear what J.D. Vance said? Did you hear what J.D. did now? You're not going to believe J.D. Vance.
Hello, I would like to order some normal donuts, please. Oh, sorry, you scared me. Ha ha ha, fear, one of the 3 human emotions. Yeah, I guess. I see several of these are seasoned with some sort of colorful pellets. You mean sprinkles? Stinkles? Sprinkles. Are sprinkles some sort of gay thing? Is that a gay donut? I don't think so. I would like some straight donuts, please. Do you have any that are gray or maybe navy blue? I like this khaki donut here. You mean the plain one? Yes, one khaki plain, please. Hey, man. It's okay if you've never been to a donut shop before. I love to be in donut shop where regulars like us are doing commerce and friendship. Sure. Tell me more about the hole in the donut. What could I... Is there anything I can put in there?
Now, here's what I already know. I know that there's been bomb threats in Springfield, Ohio, mysterious fires in apartments that housed migrants. I know there's been a bunch of racist posts, including by elected officials, and now N-bombs.
I think it was in that interview where Dana Bash says, the police have gone through 11 months of recordings of calls, and they've only found 2 Springfield residents calling to complain about Haitian migrants taking geese from ponds.
I get to all that in part 2. The link to that will be in the description when it's all ready. Now, surely J.D. Vance will have no choice but to walk this whole thing back. The crazy thing is, he already did the night of the debate. But because MAGA has poor comprehension skills, and yes, they are quite poor.
You haven't got a choice. It is President Trump and President Trump only. He's strong enough. Who could have put up with what he did the last 4 years? Nobody. It's almost like he's not even altogether human, as if God has got him by the shoulders and saying, world, this is the man that will save you. He will save us.
Here we are, sitting here having to talk these people down from reacting to something that J.D. Vance has already said was bull.
Springfield, Ohio is facing a 4th day of threats over the claims that have forced a college, hospitals, and schools to lock down. Meanwhile, Springfield police say they received 2 calls about Proud Boys marching through the city. Here's how Donald Trump responded to the controversy over Haitians who, I want to note, are in the U.S. legally.
I don't know what happened with the bomb threats. I know that it's been taken over by illegal migrants, and that's a terrible thing that happened. Springfield was this beautiful town, and now they're going through hell.
Ah, yes, the hell that can only be created by your own people reacting to your words. And oh, that whole thing about illegal migrants? Yeah, we'll get to that.
Here with me now is Republican Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance, who represents Ohio in the U.S. Senate. Thank you for being here, sir.
I gotta stop you right there, Dana Bash. He don't represent nothing but frat boys, Maybelline, and Smokey Eye. He definitely not representing Ohio.
So the mayor of Springfield, Ohio, Rob Rue, said, quote, all these federal politicians that have negatively spun our city, they need to know they're hurting our city. And it was their words that did it. Before Donald Trump talked about eating dogs and cats on a debate stage, it was you, Senator, who first elevated this baseless rumor. These are your constituents. So why are you putting them at risk by continuing to spread claims about Haitian immigrants, despite officials in your state saying that there's no evidence and pleading for you to stop?
Well, Dana, first of all, what's putting the residents of Springfield at risk, which was a town completely ignored by the American media until Donald Trump and I started surfacing some of these concerns, is that they can't afford housing, they can't afford health care. The schools have been overwhelmed, the hospitals have been overwhelmed.
Oh, is that what Donald Trump said? Here I am thinking that he said they were eating the cats and dogs, but...
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
But he was talking about housing? Is that what I get you? Oh, so that must be the deeper meaning of all these memes. Oh, I get it. So all the cat memes are about that they can't afford housing and the conditions in Springfield. Now I see why they say that art is in the eye of the beholder, because I wouldn't have got that.
My constituents have brought approximately a dozen separate concerns to me
10 of them are verifiable and confirmable, and a couple of them I talk about because my constituents are telling me firsthand that they're seeing these things.
Ooh, JD Vance, I'm gonna have to stop you right there. You said they were verifiable and confirmable, not that they were verified and confirmed. You also said concerns. Is that a euphemism for dog eating? Because I've had a lot of concerns in my lifetime, and none of them involved, dog eating.
And of course, many of the things that the media says are completely baseless have since been confirmed. For example, I was told, Dana, that by the American media, that it was baseless that migrants were capturing the geese from the local park pond and eating them. And yet there are 911 calls from well before this ever became a viral sensation of people complaining about that exact thing happening. So my attitude is listen to my constituents. Sometimes they're going to say things that people don't like, but they're saying things that people don't like because their town has been overwhelmed, and it's my job to try to fight for them and to protect them. Kamala Harris opened the border, and now these people are suffering.
You want, all right, you got it.
Senator, I have to go through several things that you just said. First of all, the Clark County Sheriff and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources reviewed 11 months of 911 calls. They only identified 2 instances of people alleging Haitians were taking geese out of parks. They found 0 evidence to substantiate those claims.
Well, see, you got to go back beyond 11 months. You got to go, this goes beyond 11, The migrants weren't there then? But, they sent a migrant scout team. They sent a migrant scout team dressed like U.S. citizens, dressed like white folks, dressed like you and me. And they were the ones that were there with the geese. You got to go beyond the 11 months, but it was still the migrants, though.
Also, other evidence that you have talked about, even you've retweeted alleged evidence, are unsourced social media videos from a different city, apparently no connection to Haitians. And this is from a conservative activist who offered a $5,000 reward for such things.
But just because it happened in a different city, it originated, though, in Springfield, because they ran away, they got chased, and they ran away to the other part of the state. So the jurisdiction of the crime is still Springfield, even though it happened in the other part of the state, because those animals belong in Springfield. Now, just listen to what she just told you. A conservative activist who put a bounty out for verified information on these acts actually happening. Somebody who has a vested interest in proving it to be correct could not find any evidence. And if you think there was any evidence of this, we wouldn't have any names and places. We wouldn't just be in this generic netherworld of confirmed reports and it. No, we would have some facts, but where we at and what we got? Memes.
And then going just backly to the schools and the hospitals and so forth being overwhelmed, nobody is disputing that the town of Springfield, Ohio needs help. But you're not just a bystander, you're the senator from Ohio. So instead of saying things that are wrong and actually causing the hospitals, the schools, the government buildings to be evacuated because of bomb threats, because of the cats and dogs thing, why not actually be constructive in helping to better integrate them into the community? Because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
See, Dana, what you have to understand is there is no win in us being constructive at this particular point in time. This campaign is on fire, and I am the VP nominee of a man who said that his opponent was trying to give transgender operations to illegal aliens in prison.
Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison.
Pretty much all we got is racist dog whistles. There is no win in us being constructive. Us trying to help assimilate the Haitians isn't something that we could platform our racism with.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting.
Ooh, he went with disgusting. Now, does he think that because he used the word disgusting, all of a sudden that absolves him of the words that came out of his mouth? Like, I'm curious. That, like, did he think that was like the star in Mario? Like, all of a sudden you're innocent because you used the words disgusting? This is rock throwing and hand hiding 101. Let's see, JD Vance. Were there bomb threats in the town before the debate? Case closed.
The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator,
and
this
threats
happened
of
after you and
But to
President
say-
Trump
no,
were
Dana,
on the debate
say-
stage, said
Dana,
that cats and dogs
you
were
asked,
being eaten.
You asked a question, Dana, and
after
I'm going to
that-
go ahead and answer it.
but
What
after
we
that,
said,
they were
what we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies.
Now, I want you to pay very close attention to what JD Vance just said. He said, I am responding to the needs of my constituents, which is already nonsense. That's why we have people on Capitol Hill that are calling for him to step down. But listen to who he's considering his constituents, his supporters, MAGA. You know who he's not considering? The everyday residents of Springfield who may or may not be involved in politics. The Kamala Harris supporters, the Haitians, the black people who get mistaken as Haitians. Oh yeah, those aren't constituents who deserve any consideration whatsoever.
Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand. Now, let me just fact check a couple of other things that you said, Dana, because it's important. You said that all of these migrants are in the country legally. They are in the country through what's called temporary protective status.
Right.
That is when Kamala Harris waved a magic amnesty wand, taking people and giving them legal status. That is not to say that they're here legally. That is a terrible indictment of her amnesty policies that have further opened the border and further caused terrible migration into this country.
I have a question. JD Vance, did you just challenge whether or not they were here legally by asserting that you disagreed with the law? So your challenge of whether or not they're here legally is that you disagree with the law. So if you determine they're not here legally, then they're not here legally. Is that what you're telling me? Because it sounds a lot like if I don't agree with the law, I don't have to acknowledge or respect it. Is that what we're doing? Oh, you know what? I forgot about Trump being the presidential nominee. That is absolutely what we're doing.
Dana, would you like to ask me questions and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me on these topics? I noticed that when you had Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, you gave them multiple choice answers to the questions that you asked, and you allowed them to answer the questions.
I got this one. Well, see, the difference is that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz didn't require a fact check immediately after they appear in public.
I'm happy to be here to talk about policy, but if you're going to interrupt me every single time that I open my mouth, then why am I even doing this?
That he has made today. There has yet to be a public JD Vance appearance where I leave saying, you know, I feel better about him. Not one. And shockingly, the Republicans feel the exact same way.
So please ask a question, and I'd ask you to be polite enough to let me answer it.
Yes, I am. And I think that if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were making unsubstantiated claims that had racist undertones about people eating dogs and cats, and they didn't answer the questions about that, then I would have similar interactions with them.
Points to Dana Bash, because that is multiple times now that she has interjected the racist undertones, or let's just call it straight up racism, involved with these assertions about them eating dogs and cats, and the kind of racism that Trump walks right into with this kind of talk.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
That is fascinating. They are animals, and the ones coming from the southern border, they are animals, but not the ones coming from the European. No, they are not. Not the English or the Irish. None of that. But those animals. You got it. S-hole countries.
Aiden Clark, who is an 11-year-old boy who was killed in Springfield last year. It was a car accident involving a Haitian immigrant. You said that he was murdered. His father said that's not true. It was an accident. Here's what he said to you.
Politicians, Bernie Moreno, Chip Roy, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump. They have spoken my son's name and used his death for political gain. This needs to stop now. They are not allowed, nor have they ever been allowed to mention Aiden Clark from Springfield, Ohio. I will listen to them one more time to hear their apologies.
Senator, he's asking for you to apologize. Will you?
Dana, first of all, my heart goes out to the Clark family, and I don't bring their son's name up because they've clearly expressed a preference for politicians to not bring their son's name up. I wish them all the best. I can't believe what kind of a tragedy they've experienced, but I'm still going to keep on talking about what the migrants have done to Springfield, Ohio, and what Kamala Harris's open border has done to Springfield, Ohio.
So, no. I am so sorry for your loss, and I can't imagine what you must be going through on the day of his funeral. But we scheduled this party weeks in advance. My side piece is here, and I'm going to get it in.
If I have to,
But it wasn't just a meme,
create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast.
One more time for those in the back.
If I have to,
But it wasn't just a meme,
create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast.
The man just went and said it. What are we doing?
You just said that you're creating a story.
Public policy.
Sir, you just said that you're creating the story.
What's that, Dana?
You just said that this is a story that you created. So the eating dogs and cats thing is not accurate.
Dana, it comes from firsthand accounts from my constituents.
In other words, nothing that anybody could ever verify. Thank you for playing. So happy that his concern for the lives of the people in Springfield, especially the brown ones, is such that he's willing to run with firsthand accounts of the concerns of my constituents. And by the way, I actually run down exactly how all this came to be. And the second part of this, we're talking about a deleted Facebook post, a debunked geese in Columbus, and a woman that mutilated a cat in Canton, places that are also not Springfield, and none of whom were Haitian migrants. The degree of racism and utter disregard that it takes to run with these kinds of claims on a national stage, even posting memes repeatedly with absolutely no disregard for how this affects people's lives, needs to be studied. Of course, it'll be a while before we get to it, because we'll have to work through all the other racism that gets thrown at us.
Do you condemn the Proud Boys, even if it's just 12, even if it's just one marching in Springfield?
Dana, I condemn all white supremacists. I'm obviously not. I'm married to a non-white person. I don't like these people, but I think that we have to keep our focus not on 12 marchers going down the street, but on the fact that thousands of residents have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's policy. Well, what is the implication, Dana? I actually love to have this conversation right now live on air.
Right.
What is the implication when you say you calling out these problems has caused a bomb threat? You accused me of causing a bomb threat. Doesn't that mean you should shut up about the residents of Springfield? Don't you realize you're engaged in basic propaganda to silence the concerns of American citizens?
I was quoting.
Ooh, that was a whole lot of Mad Libs. Sound and fury signifying absolutely nothing, but points to coming down to Donald Trump's linguistic level with the whole shut up thing. The implication is pretty clear. She hasn't moved off of her point or her rhetoric, nor should she. If you had an above MAGA comprehension level, you wouldn't be asking this question. I would expect you to, given your education, but you know, you are who you hang with. How you just gonna accuse me of stealing money out your purse after you found it in my jeans? What is the implication? Just what is the implication of 1,000 bottles of baby oil?
I was quoting the actual mayor of Springfield, Ohio, begging after the bomb threats, begging federal officials, to please stop putting negative attention on his city. And I'm not talking about the policies. I'm not talking about the very real challenges that Springfield has. I'm talking about baseless rumors about Haitians eating dogs and cats. And that, after that was said on a debate stage, that is when these bomb threats started. And that is a fact.
Funny thing is, we know when this was said on the debate stage, and we could actually track all of the destruction and chaos. And I don't know if he's aware. I don't know if he knows that we could literally track these things. Not like your claims from your constituents, your firsthand accounts. Like, we actually have evidence of this.
The Springfield mayor, he's dealing with a lot of terrible things. I certainly sympathize with the guy, and we're going to try to help him out. But he did not accuse me of inciting a bomb threat. He just didn't. And if we're going to take the firsthand accounts of people who are on the ground in Springfield, why don't you bring on some of the people on your program who say that the migrants are eating their pets?
Why don't you produce one, JD Vance? You mean to tell me that you got all this time to post out memes, but you don't have time to actually get anybody on record to say this happened? You crazy. Y'all crazy.
You're applying a double standard here. You're saying if one person accuses JD Vance, I'm going to take that person's word as the gospel truth.
You have somebody
even
whose
if you
name
misrepresent it. If you have another person who's saying they're eating the cats, you're going to completely ignore them, attack them, silence them, and harass them. That double standard is why that people don't trust the media and why we're not talking about public policy 51 days out from a presidential election.
So the double standard is that we are trusting the authorities there in relaying exactly what's happening in Springfield, things that they can actually verify, but not trusting your firsthand account from constituents that not even you are willing to go on record with. Now, you might be wondering, all of these claims and frothing up your base into a fury about this random town in Ohio. What was the point of all of this? Well, I'm glad you asked.
JD Vance would very much like you to stop talking and thinking about his constant sliming of childless cat ladies that include women like Taylor Swift and some in her army of fans, many of whom are of voting age. He would like us to stop talking about his party's religious fanaticism and their determination to ban abortion nationwide using the tactics written down in Project 2025. They fear that they will lose the election in 50 days because women are so disgusted by James David Vance and Donald Trump that they won't vote for them. So what better dead cat to throw onto the middle of the stage than forcing the media to instead focus on Haitian immigrants who JD and Trump are demonizing as unhuman beasts lurking outside your door waiting to steal your cats and dogs so they can eat them. Did I mention that JD blurbed a book by the Pizzagate conspiracy promoter and right-wing lunatic Jack Posobiec that's titled Unhumans? What better way to replace the embarrassing memes about JD's cat lady fixation and his weird possible amorous relationship with couches than to get Americans to instead post memes about Haitians eating the dogs and cats?
One look at those most recent polls and it becomes abundantly clear. We are in that portion of the game where you start bringing out trick plays, going for it on 4th down and shooting from half court. That is where MAGA is at with the 2024 election. And you know what? You love to see it. Yeah, you absolutely, you love to see the level of desperation. Today's nominee, Portage County Sheriff Bruce Zakowski, National Review Editor-in-Chief Rich Lowry, and you know what? MAGA. Just all of MAGA. Now, we remember how it all started.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
What you may not remember is immediately after that, yes, the night of the debate, J.D. Vance gave up the entire game.
He brought up this misleading false claim that you yourself have talked about in recent days about Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, abducting people's pets and eating them, which officials there have said is not true. You yourself acknowledged it may be false on Twitter. You still told people to keep spreading it. But Trump just amplified it to tens of millions of people who were watching. Why push something that's not true?
Well, first of all, city officials have not said it's not true. They've said they don't have all the evidence.
They said they have no evidence.
We've heard from a number of constituents on the ground, Caitlin, who both firsthand and secondhand reports saying this stuff is happening. So they very clearly, meaning the people on the ground dealing with this, think that it is happening. And I think that it's important for journalists to actually get on the ground and uncover this stuff for themselves when you have a lot of people saying, my pets are being abducted, or geese at the city pond are being abducted and slaughtered right in front of us. This is crazy stuff. And again, whether those exact rumors turn out to be mostly true, somewhat true, whatever the case may be, Caitlin, this town has been ravaged by 20,000 migrants coming in. Healthcare costs are up. Housing costs are up. Communicable diseases like HIV and TB have skyrocketed in this small Ohio town. This is what Kamala Harris's border policies have done. And I think it's interesting, Caitlin, that the media didn't care about the carnage wrought by these policies until we turned it into a meme about cats. And that speaks to the media's failure to care about what's going on in these communities. If we have to meme about it to get the media to care, we're going to keep on doing it because the media should care about what's going on.
I saw you say that. I think the media does care about it. I just read a very lengthy report in the New York Times on it. PBS NewsHour did a whole story on it. But can I ask you?
By us talking about it and bringing it up. Nobody cared about this until we raised this issue.
Now, I addressed the headloons in part 1. The link to that will be in the description. Now, for the rest of us, the man coming out and saying, if we have to make up stories, he don't even have to finish that sentence. That will be it. That will be the end. For anybody with an operable brain, we just heard him admit that he made the thing up. But not MAGA, not these people in this congregation, the most decrepit church that this earth has ever seen. These are the same people who brought up Tim Walz's family, despite the fact that J.D. Vance's family was so problematic. He wrote a book about them that was made into a movie. And that whole Republicans for Harris movement and Mike Pence and the other 40 top cabinet officials and executives that are supporting Harris. And, Donald Trump's family.
A couple of years ago, I called him. I said, Donald, the fund's running out. And without hesitation, he said, your son doesn't recognize you. Let him die and move to Florida.
Were you surprised?
That's a great question. My response was, no, Donald, he does recognize me, and said, well, thanks, and hung up. Was I surprised? I don't think you could hear something like that and not be surprised. But that is what he has become. It's sad.
There's a chapter that you write about called the race card. What's that about?
I was about 10 years old, and I was at my grandparents' house, like I was a lot. And Donald, I could hear him screaming. And I went down to the driveway of my grandparents' house, and there was his white Eldorado convertible with 2 slashes, still remember it. And he had electrical tape, because the roof was black. And he used the N-word twice, just saying who he thought probably had done this.
You were 10 years old when these comments were allegedly uttered.
Right.
You sure you remember him that way?
Oh, absolutely.
He says he doesn't use the word.
Okay, he did twice that day.
As many of you know, when it comes to Donald Trump, I think he's a loser. What most people don't understand is that Donald Trump also thinks he's a loser.
And these are also people who take their cue from Laura Loomer.
You know, she's just a bitch, right? She just really is a bitch. And the fact of the matter is, like you said, she says that she's spreading all this truth, but yeah, you're right. She's just spreading her legs.
Sway the election.
What's she saying? I can't understand her. What?
Steal the election. That is why
What's
he
she?
is censoring and shadow banning.
How about it in? 12 and a half, 15, 7 and a half, $20, 2 and a half, 5, 7 and a half, 30. Hit $30 down here, 2 and a half, 5, 35, 7 and a half, 40. Hit $40, 2 and a half, 5, 45, 7 and a half, 50. Hit $50 down here, 2 and a half.
Officer, will you escort this young lady out, please?
Hit 2 and a half now, 5, 65, 7 and a half, 70. Hit 2 and a half now, 5, 75, 7 and a half, $80 to 5, 85, 90. Hit $100 and 10, 10, 10 and a quarter, 1 and a quarter, 1 and a half, 75, 2, 2 and a quarter. Hit 2 and a half, 75, 3, able to bomb 300. Hit 3 and a quarter. Cut 3 and a quarter now, half, 3 and a half, 75, 400. Hit but a 4, 4 and a quarter, 4 and a half. We're selling the cell phone there, 4 and a quarter, 4 and a half. Hit 4 and a half, 475, 505, 5 and a quarter, 5 and a half. I yield back.
Now it all makes sense. Now it all makes sense. Because when you start at Laura Loomer, then trusting Blood Tribe would just be like a natural progression. Like they would be seen as a legitimate source of information.
Nathaniel Higgers of Blood Tribe. I was at the head of the anti-Haitian immigration march earlier this month. I've come to bring a word of warning. Stop what you're doing before it's too late. Crime and savagery will only increase with every Haitian you bring in. And with it, public frustration and anger.
You sound threatening to me. I'm gonna,
based on the comments
if I could ask the police to go ahead.
I'm sure I don't need to tell you that.
Just sound threatening if you go ahead and just peacefully be removed.
These people didn't ask for this. And they deserve better than to have to put up with violent, unruly outsiders.
You're done. Thank you. That's all. Thank you so much. Not really, thank you. But
now let's examine the evidence, starting with a now deleted Facebook post from Erica Lee about a neighbor's cat that went missing, adding that the neighbor told Lee she thought the cat was a victim of an attack by her Haitian neighbors. Now, the neighbor in question, Kimberly Newton, said she heard about the attack from a third party and said that Lee's Facebook post misstated her story. Okay, so if we're going by the Facebook post, even the person who's being described in the Facebook post said that it's not true. We don't even have to go to the Haitian neighbors. The actual person who's in the Facebook post said that the story was misstated. Not to mention the fact that this has now been deleted. Then there was the photo of a man holding a dead goose that was taken in Columbus, Ohio, that was spread online as evidence of the claims about Springfield, Ohio. And if you're scoring at home, Columbus and Springfield are in fact two entirely different places. Not to mention the fact he don't even have the right animal. He don't have the right animal, and he not even in the same part of the state. Pretty soon, y'all just gonna be walking into PetSmart and taking photos of animals for sale and claiming that as evidence. Then we get to this one, this 27-year-old black woman named Alexis Farrell, who was arrested in Canton, Ohio. Yes, a third different place in Ohio. I know it might be hard for somebody that doesn't exist in what they describe as flyover country, but Ohio is not a town. It is a whole state with multiple different places inside that state. One place called Springfield, one place called Columbus, one place called Canton. They're all completely different places. Now, this woman was arrested in Canton, Ohio, after police say she may have murdered a cat in a residential area in front of multiple people, quote, end quote. That came from USA Today. If you're wondering, Canton is about 170 miles northeast of Springfield, Ohio. What they did get right about this one, at least this was a black person. At least this was a black person. It was a non-Haitian Ohio resident, a full American, not an immigrant in the least, but it was at least a black person. So for your purposes, I guess you could take that and run with it. And on this, the saddest, most paltry evidence, we got whole bomb threats. People started calling in bomb threats around Springfield, Ohio. Now help me here with this, MAGA. Are you trying to make Springfield worse than Haiti? Is that what you're trying to do? You know, if we just create a whole bunch of terror, then they won't want to come here. They won't want to come here no more. So we'll just make it unlivable for anybody, and then nobody will want to come here. Just all of the common sense that I had as a kid when I would lick my burger so nobody else wants it. Not to mention the fact that how does creating chaos where you live make your case for why you want to protect your community? Huh? I need to know that. Tell me that they're destroying the community, and so in response, you destroy the community. Because y'all like to call us out when there's a black riot going on. Y'all like to call us out for destroying our own community. What y'all got going on? Huh? What y'all got going on? And all it took to put a battery in your back was that sad evidence and blood tribe. And you know what? I would actually like to apologize to Trump for just a moment, because I called him the slowest among them. That is clearly J.D. Vance, who, after already admitting that they're running with garbage off the internet, decide to do the Sunday rounds and admit it a second time.
He just said Haitians are eating dogs and cats. Can you affirmatively say now that that is a rumor that has no basis with evidence?
Dana, the evidence is the first-hand account of my constituents who are telling me that this happened. And by the way, I've been trying to talk about the problems in Springfield for months, and the American media ignored it. There was a congressional hearing just last week of angel moms who lost children because Kamala Harris let criminal migrants into this country who then murdered their children. The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to,
But it wasn't just a meme,
create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast.
Now that went extremely poorly. I dove deep into that in part one of this Racist of the Week, but I do need to stop for a minute. Is J.D. Vance the worst VP nominee in U.S. history? Is he because Because as a VP, your credo should be do no harm, right? You just want to stay out the way. You know what I mean? You like the person that's showing up to work on your last day before vacation. You just don't want to get involved in nothing. You just want to be silent. Even Sarah Palin never said nothing this bad.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it? So many of the leaders of the left, and I hate to be so personal about this, but they're people without kids trying to brainwash the minds of our children. And that really disorients me and it really disturbs me. Randy Weingarten, who's the head of the most powerful teachers union in the country, she doesn't have a single child. If she wants to brainwash and destroy the minds of children, she should have some of her own and leave ours the hell alone.
JD Vance so problematic, I had to throw this video at the end of another video. He making gaffes faster than I can make videos. He really needs a dedicated channel.
What can we do about lowering the cost of daycare? Hayden, obviously a working family, and it's very hard for working families to get by. How will we lower the cost of daycare?
You know, such an important question, Charlie. And I think one of the things that we can do is make it easier for family models to choose, or for families to choose whatever model they want, right? So one of the ways that you might be able to relieve a little bit of pressure on people who are paying so much for daycare is make it so that you know, maybe like grandma or grandpa wants to help out a little bit more. Or maybe there's an aunt or uncle that wants to help out a little bit more. If that happens, you relieve some of the pressure on all the resources that we're spending in daycare. Now, you talk about just daycare. Let's say you don't have somebody who can provide that extra set of hands.
So that's your solution, huh? That is your solution. Hey, JD, what answers do you have for the economy? And how do you help people that are struggling? Well, you know, diets will actually allow you to save money. If you eat less, that would allow you to save money. Not to mention the fact that exercise is free. You know, see, we have an obesity epidemic, and if we attack the obesity epidemic, then you will have more money in your pockets. JD, what do you want to do about education? You know, it's funny you should ask. I was just visiting with my grandparents, and they had these old CD-ROMs, these old CD-ROMs that had a lot of information on them, and we need to recycle these to the youth. Not to mention all those old Encyclopedia Britannicas. Nobody's reading them. No, they're not going to them. Take all them old, the grandma and grandpa got old Encyclopedia Britannica. Just lay those on the kids, you know, and just put them in the room. If you just put them in the room, they'll probably get some of that knowledge by osmosis. They don't even have to read the book. JD, what is your plans for the gun violence epidemic in America? I already know. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. We all know that one. What's so crazy is, as offensive as Trump and JD Vance are, they're not even today's nominee, although they might wish they were when Joy Reid gets done with him.
Are you a racist?
Well, I guess JD decided to answer that question himself 2 years later with a resounding yes, by admitting that despite being paid by the voters of Ohio to represent, protect, and defend them, all of them, regardless of race, color, or immigration status, he instead unleashed what amounts to a terrorist campaign on his own constituents by amplifying hideous lies about black immigrants who were invited to become desperately needed workers in Springfield. Lies that started with ugly rumors about Haitian immigrants spread by literal neo-Nazis, which got amplified when a Facebook post that the poster now admits was a misunderstood story about her neighbor went viral and melded with an arrest more than 100 miles from Springfield of a clearly troubled black American woman for harming a cat, which then became what Vance himself has now labeled a meme that he felt free to amplify to stoke racism against Haitian immigrants for no other reason than to make the media cover immigration his way. That is who Donald Trump, with his own long history of racism, put on his ticket to be one step away from the nuclear codes.
Hold on a minute, Joy. That's for the other video. Today's first nominee, Portage County Sheriff Bruce Zakowski. might think the sheriff that oversees a town that's inundated with this kind of terror campaign might be a bit protective, making sure to set the minds at ease of those that are under his banner.
And this bitch, former president, I guess.
This fool shared this on Facebook, and shout out to Mark Zuckerberg, because he's been catching racists since at least 2016. When people ask me what's going to happen if the flip-flopping, laughing hyena wins, I say write down all the addresses of the people who had her signs in their yards. So when the illegal human locusts, which she supports, need places to live, will already have the addresses of their new families who supported their arrival. Now, my favorite kind of racist post is where you can go multiple choice on what was the most offensive. Calling Kamala Harris a laughing hyena, calling the Haitian immigrants locusts, or trying to take down the names of Kamala Harris supporters, which is right down the line voter intimidation, which, mind you, is exactly what you want to be doing when you're up for election like this idiot is. Ohio, you know exactly what to do.
You need to leave.
Now, on a normal week, this is where the video would end, but not this week and not this election. Our next nominee, National Review Editor-in-Chief, Rich Lowry. Now, if you haven't heard of National Review, congratulations. You are actually living a charmed existence. You should probably just continue on, and ignorance is bliss. But Lowry appeared on the esteemed Megyn Kelly show. Yes, she continued her show even after that Taylor Swift meltdown, to defend J.D. Vance, because of course he did, for admitting to CNN's Dana Bash that he made up the story about Haitians in Ohio for attention. Quote, you remember Alternative Facts with Kellyanne? They did the same thing. She wasn't saying you made up fictions and pretend they're facts. You bring up other facts to bear in the debate that are being ignored. Oh, other facts, like something that happened in Columbus and something that happened in Canton. You mean other facts like that? Lowry continued, that's what Vance was saying. I think it was that interview where Dana Bash says police have gone through 11 months of recordings of calls and they've only found 2 Springfield residents calling to complain about Haitian. You know what? I'll just let him finish it.
I think it was in that interview where Dana Bash says, the police have gone through 11 months of recordings of calls, and they've only found 2 Springfield residents calling to complain about Haitian migrants taking geese from ponds. Only 2 calls. And I think one lesson in this whole story, people don't care about geese. People really hate geese. They all things considered, yeah. I think people would prefer Haitian migrants to come and take the geese off the golf course, right? So it's pets, yeah. It's the cats and dogs that's become the standard. Geese clearly don't matter.
By the way, YouTube gets a little sensitive about ends, so I might have to go ahead and put that full video in the description, or you can watch it on my Instagram page. I'm going to put the address right there. It's just at Reese Waters. Now, Lowry claims he didn't say what we all heard, which I'll actually give him at this point. I mean, Laura Loomer is flying around with Trump. For all we know, yeah, I said it, has to be on the bingo card at this particular point in our history.
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
But here you have to look at the context. So I'm making a video about these racist conspiracy theories involving Haitians eating cats and dogs. You are defending the man that amplified this and put this all out to the national media and continues to do so. Their dehumanization, basically. I'm also making a video about a guy who called them locusts. So given all of my context clues, it's not like we was talking about candy corn and you accidentally dropped ends. You literally are making a case why this dehumanizing, extremely racist story is okay to put out there. So ends really fits with all the rest of what you're talking about. Oh, that fit better than a throwback jersey in 2005. But definitely not 2024. Please bring back throwback jerseys, because I'm flush. Which somehow brings me back to the sheriff, because we are right now criticizing the Haitians for something they didn't do. But one thing we know that you did do is amplify these racist conspiracy theories. So exactly who are the animals? And I open up my email and I get a message from Michael Brown hipping me to today's nominee, and shout out to you, Michael, Oakland County, Michigan Judge Kathleen Ryan. All right, put on the Summer Jam screen.
The Honorable Kathleen A. Ryan presiding.
Good morning. You may be seated.
After more than 13 years on the bench, Oakland County Chief Probate Pro Tem Judge Kathleen Ryan is out of her courtroom. Chief Probate Judge Linda Hallmark removed Judge Ryan from her docket last week, announcing that a complaint about internal allegations of unprofessional conduct was sent to the Judicial Tenure Commission. Judge Ryan was arrested in 2021 for domestic violence, but those charges were later dismissed. And now she's back in the headlines.
Well, if you're black from any other country, you're doing way better. If you're an American black person, then you're a lazy piece of
Okay, I'm gonna have to stop us right there. Can y'all get y'all racism straight? Like, first you want to tell us to be grateful, right? Be grateful for slavery. Hey, what if you were still in Africa? What if you never came to America? We're the greatest country in the world. You want to tell us to be grateful for centuries of bondage, but then want to turn around and say we would be doing better if we were black from any other country? Y'all got to get some consistency here. I mean, really, the racism ranks is in total disarray. It's real bad. They need better leadership. This is what happens when Steve Bannon goes to jail.
The 7 investigators have obtained the recordings that county officials say prompted Judge Ryan's removal.
Oh, he's just I have no use for him. I can honestly say that. Okay, I'm not systemically racist. I'm a new racist.
Ooh, a judge. I can honestly say I'm not systemically racist. I'm a new racist. Okay, so if you are not systemically racist, you're saying that you take it upon yourself just to be racist. You don't just go along with the racist gravy train, because that would be systemically racist. You find ways to be racist independent of yourself. Okay, so you are a special racist. You are an independent thinker racist. You are a racist of your own creation. What, you want a cookie? I'll take things a judge should never say for 500, please. Hey, what judge you got? Oh, I got Ryan. Yeah, no, because she's not systemically racist. Nah, she wanted a new racist. Yeah, so I'm gonna be okay.
I can honestly say that. Okay, I'm not systemically racist. I'm a new racist. I never was, but now I am, because you're shoving the down my throat and making allegations that you don't know about. You're telling me who I am, and you've never met me. You.
Okay, Michigan, I'm going to have to go ahead and look at the qualifications to become a judge, because what she is saying is, I was never racist before, but now I am, because you're shoving it down my throat. She didn't say what it is. I can only imagine that it is calls to be treated like a whole human being, and acknowledgement of racism embedded in our country's fabric, like judges. So, because you're shoving this down my throat, now I'm racist because you're making allegations that you know nothing about. Now, what would those allegations be, Kathleen Ryan? Would those be allegations of racism? Which would now be correct, right? Right? Like those allegations, people who knew nothing about you claim that you were racist, and man, that hit dog hollered. Man, how did they know? Oh, come on. I can't even be a new racist in the privacy of my own courtroom in the United States of America. What is going on today? They just happened to hit on a new racist when they made the allegations of racism, which would make them, let's say it together, class, correct. Michigan, I'm gonna need y'all to go ahead and diversify the qualification process to become a judge. It has to go well past reading, writing, and arithmetic. Because I know she didn't pass nothing else.
Hutton says the judge also used homophobic slurs about other elected officials.
You know, we just gonna sprinkle a little homophobia on top. You know what I mean? Just sprinkle a little bit on like Salt Bay. You know what I mean? I'm going, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't know if you was offended. How about that? How about now? How about now? Now you might be asking yourself, well, how did all of this come to light? Well, I'm glad you asked.
Down my throat and making allegations that you don't know about. You're telling me who I am and you've never met me. You. You. Oh, he's just I have no use for him.
She's made it a living hell in the past 6 years. I mean, it's been terrible. It's cost me relationships. I think it's affected my health. Can't sleep.
Attorney Edward Hutton is the Oakland County Probate Court Administrator. He's in charge of running everything that's not under the judge's purview inside one of the state's largest probate courts. Hutton alleges Judge Ryan has been calling him both during work and after hours for years. And Hutton says during those hours and hours of calls, Judge Ryan said highly inappropriate things.
Wait a minute. Did this man say that the judge calling him at all different hours saying inappropriate things has cost him relationships? Huh? Like, was he out at it? You know what? Hold on. I gotta take this. It's the judge want to be racist. Hold on. You know. You. A jungle what?
Why did you start recording the calls?
I just felt like it wasn't going to change. Nothing's manipulated in it. It's conversations that I was a part of, and I'm absolutely willing to testify to the authenticity of every single one of them.
Hutton says the judge also used homophobic slurs about other elected officials.
You know.
And that's not all.
A lot of times they were conversations about sexual encounters that she's having with various individuals. I mean, in intimate detail.
Wait. Run that back one more time. One more time. I don't think I heard you correctly.
A lot of times they were conversations about sexual encounters that she's having with various individuals. I mean, in intimate detail.
Wait, so she was calling him and talking about tricking off in addition to the racism and the homophobia? Sounds like she really, I don't think anybody needs a friend more than she needs a friend. I mean, she needs a girlfriend in the worst way. Oh my gosh. I mean, the kind of things that your average girlfriend or, you know, your man's or whoever would have access to if they wanted to go public is wild. And she basically treated this man in that capacity, irregardless of the fact that they work together. And these are not things that are becoming of a judge. She was willing to risk it all because she was in that desperate need of friendship. And listening to those recordings, I can only imagine why. I can only imagine why. You know, Karens need love too. They do. Karens need love too, because this is what happens. This is what happens when they don't get it.
Hutton says for years he felt like he had to play along, and he says for years he was afraid to speak up.
I didn't want to lose my job, and I didn't want to be in her crosshairs. It's such a David and Goliath situation. I don't have the power. I'm not elected. I could get fired tomorrow.
On May 24th, Hutton says he sent Chief Judge Linda Hallmark a notice of sexual harassment.
For 3 months, nothing happened.
That's why on August 22nd, Hutton says he decided to send the recordings to the Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court, Oakland County Executive David Coulter, and other public officials. And he also contacted me.
Linda Hallmark. Yeah, I'm gonna need to holler at you. I'm gonna need to holler at you. So he sent you this in May? He sent you this in May, and nothing happened for 3 months. until he went to the media. If you are paying attention, now I'm going to get back around to the ramifications for the criminal justice system. I'll land that plane at the end. But I just want to make this point clear. For 3 months, nothing happened until he went to the media. So you had a judge that was openly spewing this kind of racism and homophobia, okay, was recorded. The recording was sent up the chain of command to the property authorities, and they still did nothing, even though they knew that there was a judge who was presiding over the lives of these people, did nothing for 3 months until what happened? Until he went to the media. Now we get some movement when the public becomes aware and you become incapable of sitting on it, as apparently you were planning to. Whatever happens to Kathleen Ryan, I'm gonna need Linda Hallmark right behind her.
I just want to make it right. I haven't filed a lawsuit. I'm not looking for a payday. I want to keep my job and do it in peace. And I want the people in Oakland County that come to court to get a fair shake, to have their day in court, to have an unbiased trier of fact.
In that email, Hutton said Judge Ryan, quote, has vocalized her hate and contempt for various protected groups. Once the recordings were shared with those state and county officials, Judge Ryan was removed from her docket.
Now, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, who I'm assuming was unaware of this back in May, swiftly reacted to the investigation, released the following statement following the airing of the story. The story, as reported, is very disturbing. Fairness, a sense of impartial justice, and prudent judgment are essential values our state's judges must exercise, and these allegations portray a grave failing of those values from a probate court bench. This case dramatically underscores the need for critical guardianship reform now, including requiring probate judges to provide reasoning for when they bypass family members in favor of professional guardians. My department and the Elder Abuse Task Force has worked closely with stakeholders for years now to develop and pass a legislative package that will provide long-needed reforms to the guardianship statutes. We've all recognized the dire need for these reforms, with the exception of the probate judges who stand opposed to this legislation. Shocking. I hope this investigation proceeds swiftly and helps illustrate why Michigan needs these essential and urgent reforms. Okay, so to those probate judges that stand opposed to the legislation, I would like to ask, after this story, if they still stand opposed to this legislation, and if so, why? Because one thing that is absolutely necessary, and one that's a conclusion that is inescapable from this, is major reforms are required, because we are at a point where our process for evaluating the people that are eligible to make decisions and determinations that affect people's lives cannot weed out open racists. Okay, new racists. Okay, maybe we were weeding out the old kind. We're not weaving out the new racists. It's almost like performance enhancing testing when it comes to the Olympics and sports in general. Like we always got to stay in front of the testers. They always a step ahead. What is it? Just the racists just always a step ahead. This is an indicator that the racists are a step ahead. Okay, there are some holes in our process. Some of the new racists are getting through. So obviously reform and new legislation is necessary. But whenever there's a story like this, my mind always goes to how many are out there. Clearly, we are incapable of weeding these people out entirely from being in positions of power in this country. Even the ones that have these kinds of open views, she just happened to have been particularly sloppy, particularly lonely, and particularly talkative. And so hers became public. But clearly, there are many others out there that are not as sloppy and that are not as lonely and have people that they can relay these kinds of views to that aren't going to record them and put them on the Suberdram screen. In addition, they have safeguards in place like the Linda hallmarks that will sit on it for months and do nothing even when they are identified. So you have to ask yourself, how many of these people are actually out there in positions of power in America today? It is extremely disturbing. Now, investigators did reach out to Judge Kathleen Ryan to talk to her about this. In a written statement, her attorneys Gerald Gleason and Thomas Cranmer said, "We respect the authority of the Michigan Supreme Court. However, we look forward to vindicating Judge Ryan in the appropriate forum." Vindicating how? I would love to know how you plan to vindicate, because she didn't have a Snickers. She didn't have a Snickers, so that she wasn't herself. Like, I don't want it. What she had bitter beer face, and she saw herself in the mirror. She just reacted angrily, blamed black people, called herself a new racist. I need to understand do you feel like she can be vindicated from multiple recordings expressing this open hostility and discriminatory feelings? I would love to know. I would love to know. Now, I did mention Linda Hallmark earlier, the Oakland County Chief Probate Judge. She said in a statement released last week that the allegations have been sent to the Judicial Tenure Commission, which will decide whether to investigate it further. And of course, if she has anything to do with it, it won't be, as evidenced by her actions prior. Investigators also spoke to Oakland County Probate Judge Daniel O'Brien. He said Judge Ryan's friends are supporting her and believe these statements are totally out of character. Well, that's interesting, because she wasn't talking about one particular black person. She wasn't talking about one particular gay person. She called herself a new racist. I don't know what you think character means, but she has clearly articulated the kind of character that she is. Let's go to her own words.
I can honestly say that. Okay, I'm not systemically racist. I'm a new racist.
Sounds like her character is pretty defined. And I would like to add, while we're talking about disturbing aspects of this story, okay, I alluded to how many others might be out there. Here you have another probate judge saying her friends are supporting her and believe these statements are totally out of character, in addition to the chief probate judge, Linda Hallmark, who did nothing for 3 months. So you see just how appalled the other judges are by one of their ranks expressing these kind of feelings. I'm gonna need some more investigation. We can know. I'm gonna need some more, because your reaction has led me to the place where, how normalized is this? Michigan, hey, you messed up, Daniel O'Brien. You messed up. Daniel O'Brien and Linda Hallmark, if you wanted me to believe that this was not representative of the Michigan probate judges, you handle it 1,000% wrong. But since we're talking about character, this is the same judge that was arrested in 2021 for domestic violence, but those charges were later dismissed. Why? Why were those charges dismissed? I'm just curious, because I see how you can have your other judges back when it comes to them being racist. So I'm wondering if that also had anything to do with getting her charges dismissed. I would also like to say it speaks to the character of the kind of person that you were trying to vindicate. Speaking of character, congratulations, Oakland County, Michigan Judge Kathleen Ryan. You are our Racist of the Week. Also, thanks to Michael Brown for emailing me this story. I also want to give a shout out to Consuelo Bradley, who emailed me about the Alabama Department of Corrections and some of the atrocities therein. I appreciate you sending that. I will absolutely look into that, because criminal justice and criminal justice reform is really the backbone of this particular channel. It predates a lot of the videos that you guys have been watching, so obviously that's something of great interest to me. Also of great interest to me, the fact that after I was sent this story, I happened to look it up, and for some reason the name Kathleen Ryan was lost on me. I couldn't remember the judge's name. So I looked up the name that I thought it was, which happened to be Catherine Smith. I just looked up Catherine Smith because I thought that was the name of it. And lo and behold, there is a Catherine Smith that has been accused of horrific racism. How is it that when I accidentally look up a person's name now in 2024, they too could be racist of the week? How bad has it gotten? Today's nominee, banned Candace Owens. Now let me say this, because anytime there is a Racist of the Week recipient who is of a certain hue, be it Clarence Thomas or Kanye West, I believe this is actually Candace Owens' first Racist of the Week, which is quite an upset, actually, now that I think about it. That can't be right. Anytime there's a recipient of a certain hue, I get the message, well, black people can't be racist. Black people can't be racist. And you know what? I can pick up what you're putting down, but if you want to tell me that black people can't be racist, then you have to give me another thing to call what it is Candace Owens is doing. Here's my question to you, and I should put a poll on the community tab. Can Candace Owens be racist? Now give that a lot of thought. I'm not asking can black people be racist. I'm asking can Candace Owens be racist? And before you answer, remember this. And also this.
Of course, as I have said since the beginning of time, there are mistakes that police officers are human beings. There are mistakes that happen.
Police are people too. So what exactly was Sonia Massey? Speaking of which, I want to give a shout out to Sante Massey, who is one of Sonia Massey's cousins, who actually came into our live last Tuesday. That was a real shot in the arm and made me feel good about what we're doing on this here platform. Now, to be completely transparent in a Mark Robinson sort of way, I almost did a video about Candace Owens last week during her back and forth with Ice Cube. You remember she tweeted, gangster rap was never black culture. It was created by the feds who proffered deals to homosexual black men in prison and then turned them into artificial celebrities. The goal was to create false idols to destroy black American values. I will never change my mind on this. Now, the first thing, Candace Owens, you sure you want to be the arbiter of what is black culture?
Finish this response. God is good.
God is good. Amen.
No.
And do you want to be the arbiter of what gangster rap is and isn't? Are you sure that is a place where you want to be?
A limousine with a chauffeur. That's where I'm at right now. That song really does still slap, you guys. Why am I playing it? Because, well, I told you, I am having the blackest week ever.
Now, I would also like to add that if you wanted to make a point that rap is something that devalues the lives of our youth and shoots them down a path to destruction and plays into the hands of a supremacist society that's looking to keep black and brown people subjugated, I can actually listen to that argument. But you don't believe in any of that. You don't believe in the supremacy, and you certainly don't believe in the systemic racism. You have never met a racism that you won't excuse. Like, open the door for somebody when they're behind you in the parking lot. It's just something you do instinctually, is make excuses for racism. So where exactly are you landing this plane? What would be the reason if not to play in the hands of a systemically racist society? The other thing that I would say, and this is why you are nothing if not doing too much, why they gotta be gay? Why they gotta be gay? Is this like MAGA Mad Libs? Are you sure you didn't want to make them trans? I got a better one for you. Gangster rap was never black culture. It was created by the feds who proffered deals to Haitians who eat cats and dogs in prison and then turn them into trans doctors who perform abortions after 9 months. Like, what is this? Now, Ice Cube would respond, we called it reality rap. The industry coined it gangster rap. The fans wanted gangster rap, and that's what they got. The feds didn't write none of my S. I'm a real MC. Now, far be it for me to dispute Ice Cube, and he definitely was there in the very beginning. I just would like to take a moment to say that Candace Owens is somebody whose logic is so dysfunctional, she made me side with Ice Cube.
First and foremost, anybody telling you that you gotta vote, that it's your duty, that you have to exercise the right, and that people died for you to vote. For one, people did die, but nobody walked out their house to go die for you to vote. They were killed by probably some racists that don't want to see us get anything.
She made me side with Ice Cube in the year 2024. I ain't side with Ice Cube since he made Are We There Yet? With the notable exception of the big three, I am down with the big three, and yes, they definitely should be at the Olympics. Ain't no way they should be combing the stands for anybody with American passport who came to watch the Olympics and have them play 3-on-3 with the red, white, and blue on their back. Come on now, we had a dude in a knee brace. If you want to see where Candace Owens is coming from, look no further than her Diddy videos, which she has blasted out with glee. Somehow she's concerned about Justin Bieber, but when it comes to LeBron, all of a sudden he's a little bit too silent. So I guess for us, we can't even be in his orbit without casting suspicion on us. But for others, it's how have they been victimized. She made not one, not two, but 3 videos, all challenging Kamala Harris's racial identity.
Put Iris in quotation marks. Is it possible that Donald J. Harris, when he's fondly remembering Miss Iris, could be speaking about this woman? Yeah, it's possible. Everything's a possibility. Like I said, he's very scant on the details here. What we do know is that he declined to mention this woman. He declined to mention someone that his father married who was completely white. And as I said, I wouldn't have an issue with this if people were forthcoming and spoke about this. The press, as you're out there referring to Janet Jackson as crazy, right, for suggesting, what did Janet Jackson say? She said that she heard that Kamala's father, Donald J. Harris, was Irish. Can somebody pull up that picture of Vioris again? She heard that his family was Irish. I think Vioris, maybe Vioris, Cambridge, might be Irish.
Now, I've addressed this obsession with Kamala Harris's race before. Now, let me just cede this to you for the sake of this conversation. Let's assume that Kamala Harris is Indian. Let's assume she's 100% Indian. She's got no black in her whatsoever. Here's a question. Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that Donald Trump didn't call Colin Kaepernick and NFL players that were protesting back in 2017 SOBs?
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that Trump in the summer of 2020 didn't repeat the Southern strategy dog whistle of law and order, playing to white fears of black crime? Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that Donald Trump didn't call for the execution of the Central Park Five? And by the way, doubled down on that several times when he's had an opportunity to clean that up. Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that he didn't claim in Charlottesville that they were very fine people on both sides. Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that the U.S. Department of Justice didn't have to settle with him for violating the Fair Housing Act, where he was discriminating against renters of color? Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that Donald Trump didn't have all of the black casino workers removed from the floor when he walked in, according to Kip Brown? Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that Trump didn't say that black guys counting my money, I hate it? The only kind of people I want counting my money are short guys that wear yarmulkes every day. I think the guy is lazy, and it's probably not his fault because laziness is a trait in blacks. He later said in a 1997 Playboy interview that the stuff that was written about me is probably true. Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that didn't happen? Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that he didn't drop an N on a potential apprentice winner who happened to be a black man? Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that he didn't resort to birtherism when Obama was running for president? Does Kamala Harris being Indian mean that Trump didn't in 2017 claim that people who came to the U.S. from Haiti all have AIDS, or in 2018 say, why are we having all these people come from S-hole countries? At the end of the day, it don't matter if Kamala is Indian as long as Trump is Trump. But you, Candace, of all people, I asked what gave Donald Trump the right and the license to challenge anybody's blackness. I guess it was the indictments. You don't even have that. I'm wondering how you hating from outside the club, you can't even get in. You are basically trying to check people's ID from the prison underneath the stadium. And if you're an Eagles fan, you know. And even this is sorry ground I've covered before.
Black folks, I have a question. Why are you letting them play you with this Indian lady? Why are you letting them convince you to try to vote for this Indian lady for president?
It's white supremacy in blackface.
And don't worry, he's got a new dragon coming.
I got harassed for being a gay Trump supporter at somewhere that is supposed to be a quote-unquote safe space for gays.
Now, the view of the slowest among us in society is that we can't tell the difference.
See, that is a person wielding that weapon. You know, Cain killed Abel, and that's the problem that we have. And I said, what we need to do is look into how we can stop those things. He talked about doing a disinformation. What about getting a department that can look at young men that's looking at women that's looking at just social media? What about doing that, looking into things like that, and we can stop that way?
Black people cannot tell the difference, despite the fact that, we vote for white people all of the time. Like, if this was somebody who never went to Howard or pledged the Divine Nine or identified as black ever in her life, if this was somebody whose father wasn't Jamaican, we still find ways to vote for those people all of the time.
But Donald Trump has a long history of this. He tried this in my race. Mm-hmm. This is not the first time he has put forward a black candidate who is unfit and unqualified to serve, with the cynical notion that somehow the electorate will be confused.
And despite me spending the last week roasting Mark Robinson, so clearly many of us can tell the difference. I mean, look at the number of bots that were on Ashley Madison. I can see now why Mark Robinson was on Adult Friend Finder. That makes perfect sense, because he clearly needed a friend as an adult if he's going to pay money just to chat with Chris Rufo on Ashley Madison. That actually makes a lot of sense. Now let's talk about the fact that some of Mark Robinson's most offensive, most racist comments came on an adult message board. Those people didn't even come for that. They definitely did not come for your thoughts on Martin Luther King. They didn't come to hear about the March on Washington or President Obama. And they certainly didn't come to hear about Black Panther or good times. They came for a good time, but not that kind of good time. And by the way, you had no problem letting Amber Rose be black.
Hey, I am like a conservative.
Oh, I'm no longer black.
No, they will take that away. I'm black my whole life.
And she didn't even want to be black. My bad. Sorry, that was the wrong Amber Rose video, which in that case, it actually could have been way worse. You had no problem letting Amber Rose be black, and she didn't even want to be black.
Consider myself a black woman? Absolutely not. I do not consider myself a black woman. Absolutely not. I do not consider myself a black woman.
So what's the issue?
Well, where should we begin? You guys have heard of whitewashing history, but have you heard of blackwashing? Blackwashing is when you're a politician and it's election season and suddenly you have to relate to black people. So you just sort of start making stuff up to blackify yourself, your history. You start dropping a bunch of slang and colloquialisms and hoping that the people will therefore understand you. Honestly, it's become something of a democratic rite of passage. Except this time, I think we may have caught the culprit red-handed. Of course, I'm speaking about Kamala Harris. I think her and her campaign team are really going to regret the day that their media henchmen came for Janet Jackson.
Well, that's good news for the French president and his wife. You're no longer on the French First Lady was born a man beat. Candace, just because you're hiding something doesn't mean the rest of us are hiding something. We all know somebody who's untrustworthy. And what do they always do? Suspicious of somebody else. Because they can't imagine anybody just moving forward and living in their truth. And by the way, see, this is the problem when you admit that you're a conspiracy theorist.
Guys, imagine being married to me. My poor husband, he rolls over. He's like, what are you reading? And I feel like a regular wife says something, I don't know, maybe a love series, Nora Roberts, sweeping her away. Me, on the other hand, he rolled over, he asked me, and I said, oh, I'm reading a flat earth theory. And it dawned into an entire conversation. He's like, why are you reading a flat earth theory? And I'm like, because somebody messaged me on Manect about it, and they included some links, and I'm just reading them. I don't know. I'm just an interested person. No matter what, if there's a bunch of people that believe something, I now want to know what it is that they believe. And of course, he pushed me on this, and he was talking about the earth curvature and science. And I said to him, listen, I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. Actually, what I am is I am somebody who has left the cult of science. I have left the mega church of science, because what I have now realized is that science, what it is actually, if you think about it, is a pagan faith.
So this is how I have to receive you now. By your own admission, you will dive headlong into anything that a critical mass of people chooses to believe. Where is that critical mass? What's that number? It's clearly nowhere close to 50%, but that's fine for you.
And a picture is starting to come together. Let me say this. If, and I'm not saying this is true, but if we find out that that woman is Kamala's real grandmother, and can we get a side-by-side of Kamala? If we find out that that is Kamala's real grandmother and that she decided to appropriate the domestic help who potentially died younger as her grandmother, we are watching one of the most diabolical political moves that we have ever seen in the history of this country. I just want to say that. I'm not saying it's true, again, but I'm saying that I don't like the picture.
I can tell you about Trump's family. So when you reach your results about Kamala's family, why don't you compare it to Trump's family? And the bar is set at white sheet parties. Okay, that is where the bar is set, at clear linens. That's where the bar is set. So you tell me, Candace, like that evil friend who has the worst spouse in the city, always trying to convince you that yours is cheating too. Your life's work has been proving to us that it's more about culture than it is about skin.
We're going to be having a hearing on white supremacy. We are assuming that the biggest victims of that would be minority Americans. And presumably this hearing would be to stop that and to make sure that we can preserve the lives of minority Americans, which and based on the hierarchy of what's impacting minority Americans, if I had to make a list of 100 things, white nationalism would not make the list. And we don't see hearings on those bigger issues. You brought up the inner city communities, which is a huge issue. Black on black crime, the breakdown of family, I think is the #1 thing that's contributing to that.
And let's take a look at that. Here's Kamala. And here's Candace. Here's Kamala. And here's Candace. Here's Kamala.
Well, Donald. I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say, say it to my face.
And here's Candace.
Rumors are true. I am free. Welcome to my locals page.
Wait a minute. Candace Owens, are you jealous? Is that what this is about? I think you're jealous. Wait, are you upset that black people have found somebody to feel good about, whereas you are persona non grata even in the parking lot of the cookout? Is that what this is about? Because we've seen that before. You remember when you attacked Meghan Markle? Yeah, and then we found out later that you're really upset that she had just stumbled backwards to a level of royalty that you couldn't mammy your way within, I don't know, 5 social orders of? 'Cause I do. Well, in that case, I will say this. I really hope in your heart of hearts, I really do, that you believe that Kamala is not black. Like, I really hope that you believe this in your heart of hearts. Because that's just gonna make this hurt way more. Okay, so there you have it. All that happened in just the month of September. Lord help us. But somebody has to take home this trophy, so check out my post on the community page and vote for your favorite or least favorite. Whoever had you closest to turning the video off and tearing up your living room, vote for that person.